It's really simple.
Cook the man some fucking breakfast soup, bitch!
This looks like a job for me, so everybody just follow me. 'Cause we need a little controversy, 'cause it feels so empty without
Breakfast soup!
And I said, what about
Breakfast soup!
I need to tell you something.
Breakfast soup!
Gotta be fresh, gotta go downstairs. Gotta have my bowl, gotta have
Breakfast soup! Breakfast soup! Breakfast soup! Breakfast soup! Cardona! He's missing! He's missing in action! Cardona, where are you? Oh, man. Look, right off the bat, let everybody know, I expect Mish to be on here momentarily. Hopefully he doesn't pop his camera on naked, even though I've never seen him naked. What's up, everybody? It is Sunday afternoon, August 9th, 2020. Welcome to this edition of Breakfast Soup. First time, I think, ever. Yours truly starts it off solo, but, you know, we're already almost 5:15 p.m. I know Mish had company this afternoon. I talked to him a few hours ago, and he said he was definitely coming on tonight. And, yeah, if you're into, those Jackbox games, I got myself one of those fart sandwich shirts. And believe it when I tell you, I can't wait for Jackbox 7 to come out. In fact, I already have my name in that they're going to send me an early release of it so we can actually review it. Now, if Mish does not come on momentarily, I'll start getting into the questions. More the ones that are targeted towards yours truly, but I expect him to be here. And as I promised, gonna give this baby a new home. It is brand spanking new. Be right if I open up the opposite side. You know, I bought this last year. Brand new Chromebook. Gonna turn it on so I can show everybody that it powers up. You know, it's brand new. There we go. And my idea is that when I'm mobile, you know, I could actually like do some paperwork, interact with everyone. And see, I never even set it up. It's brand spanking new. It's a Chromebook 3. And I never used it. I bought it about 8 months ago. It was sitting. I got, the hard case. I got a soft case inside. And I was originally going to pop it up on eBay. And I said, you know what? There's definitely some of you out here that could probably use it. So I didn't want to do first come, first serve. I did that the other day with the camera that I had also. And, I'm not giving anybody hand-me-downs. If stuff isn't like top quality, I'd rather just chuck it and throw it away. But when I put the camera up, I mean, it was claimed within 5 minutes. And I know a lot of you out there are not online 24/7. So I figured, you know what? Let's do this a little bit different. I finally get to use it today. As you can see, there's some names already on here. These are everybody on YouTube right now. There's only 7 slots left. So if you want to be in on the Chromebook giveaway, no strings attached. There's only 7 slots open. So anybody on YouTube right now, pop your name up. Say, I want in on it. I'll fill in those slots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. Actually, there's only 6 left. So, Dayhawk. Oh, we got to put Dayhawk on here. All right, so we put Dayhawk. All right. I'll tell you who's on here already because I don't want anybody to submit their name twice because then it's going to kind of screw things up. I have on the list right now, I have Brian, Larry, Bob O'Mac, what school you go to, Freddie J, Jeff, Andy, Andrew 914, and Dayhawk. So if your name was not mentioned just now and you want in on this, we got 5 slots open. All right, Jermaine and Donnie. Okay, Donnie, I'm writing it in. I'm sorry for anybody that is actually just checking out audio only later on. You know, I try to make the video shows as interactive as possible. Yeah, so we have just 3 slots left. So once those 3 slots fill during the show today, then we'll do it later on. So I always wanted to use the wheel, you know? It's even got the Don Tony face on it and, you know, the ink. Yeah, I got Andrew 914 on here. I got him. See, look, 914. There he is. So, yeah. But, yeah, we get to use the wheel. And I got news for you. If this works out good, we'll do some more giveaways like this. Listen, just to let everybody know, there's going to be some changes happening on Patreon over the next bunch of months. One thing I promise is that things are going to be added. You know, we may change a couple of things that are currently, but it'll always be, you know, there's always a saying, you know, if you take 1 step back, always try to take 2 steps forward. You know, there's nothing wrong with falling back a little bit, but the idea is if you take 1 step back, try to do 2 steps forward. So you're always farther ahead than where you were before. So if we amend anything on Patreon, we're always going to add more than take away. Yeah, give away a Sputnik Monrosha. I try to stay away from that topic because honestly, I know it's turned comical for a lot of people out there. And yes, look, humor is great, especially with what's going on with COVID right now, more than anything. You know, anything that makes you laugh, you know, it's fine. But, you know, I also acknowledge that, you know, Sputnik Monroe was very, very important figure in civil rights and wrestling. And since we're all wrestling fans, you know, what that guy did is not a joke. And if you could only imagine in the 50s doing what he did for blacks, you know, that is someone that blows me away that WWE has not celebrated in the past. He's in the Hall of Fame, but he's not black. So you can't really, you know, tribute him during Black History Month, but that guy did a lot for civil rights and wrestling. And just because you may not be aware of his history doesn't mean you mock it and make fun of it. But I know why there's the running joke, and I'm all for happiness and laughter. So, you know, plus I'm not black. So he didn't affect me in that way. But again, this is an example of why you do not eliminate history. You know, I actually checked out the entire episode of Wrestling Soup on Thursday, Cardona. See, I got to set up my echo thing so I can actually do it here. Mish makes me laugh with that stuff. But they were also talking about professors that want to eliminate history. And I'm not trying to stir up any controversy, but I believe you do not erase history. You need to learn from it. If you don't know the actions of somebody or an era that was really, really horrible, you'll never understand why things are so much better. And I brought this up, for example, the other day. If you eliminate all of the racist history that we have, then Rosa Parks really means nothing. Why is Jackie Robinson's number retired across Major League Baseball? If you want to eliminate all of the history as far as our racism and negativity, it doesn't show what people overcame. If you eliminate all of the bad guys, then nobody's a superhero. You know, that's how I look at it. Alexei wants to know how he could get in on the contest. Very simple, just by saying that. So we have A-L-E-K, Alexei. So he is on the list. So we only have 2 slots remaining. So, you know, if anybody out there is not in on the list, let me read the names once again. If your name, all right, Ernesto, did Ernesto's name? I don't think Ernesto's on here. So we might only have 1 slot left. Why does this look like there's a pubic hair on this wheel? It's not. It's a piece of dust. But, all right, so here's the deal. All right, we got 1 slot left. I have everybody's name on the wheel. We got Brian, Larry, Bobo Mac. What school did you go to? Freddie J, Jeff, Andy, Andrew 914. They are 2 different people. Dayhawk, Donnie, Jermaine, Alexei, and Ernesto. So you know what? Anna, you just got the last slot. So that is it. So unfortunately, no more entries. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the wheel over here. There we go. We got the wheel. Let me make, all right. So I think that's out of sight. So in a little while, we'll just do a test run now. So I don't want to piss off the person whose name goes on here, but basically later on, I'm going to do this. And whoever's name lands on it later on gets it. So right now, Ernesto, if you don't get it later, I apologize. But that's the deal. Oh, there's Mish. All right. I kind of did a little, what I did in the meantime was, since I'm giving away the Chromebook, everybody who's live that wanted in on the contest, it was first come, first serve, but anybody who wanted in, their name is on the wheel. So we just filled up the wheel, so there's no more entries. And then later on, I'm actually going to spin the wheel, make the deal, and whoever ends up it lands on, they get the Chromebook.
Spin the wheel, make the deal, huh?
Spin the wheel, make the deal. So you didn't miss anything, my friend. I just basically opened everything up. And how's everything go with you?
It's all right. Everything's going fine. Enjoying the weekend and stuff like that. Still trying to do some of the shit box that I'm making up from earlier. But other than that, no, it's all right.
All right. Sounds good. I actually got to talk to you off the show because, I was talking about this on Twitter a little bit.
Yeah.
I'll let everybody know here as well. I have removed from the net all of the archived shows from everything I did from Minority Report to DTKC up until 2 years ago. What I'm going to do is I'm gunning for September 1st, but the idea is to put the archives of all of the shows from 2004 up until 2018, make it available on Patreon only, that you'll get, every month the password will change. You'll have access to the entire library. You pull whatever shows you want and do that way. Make the archives Patreon exclusive. So that is going to be coming September 1st for everybody out there. And as the months progress towards the end of the year, we'll also tweak a few things on Patreon. I'll be honest with you, as far as the prize wall, I'm thinking about eliminating the prize wall, but instead give people an option of like 3 prizes per pay-per-view, maybe a cash prize, maybe a gift card, or maybe something really, really cool. Because what I've noticed is, and it blows me away, I'm not going to lie, I got Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan figures that are 30 years old, mint condition in the package, that on eBay you could get $250 for them. Nobody's ever wanted it. I have autographs of Eddie Guerrero, autographs of Chris Benoit, Stephanie McMahon, Vince McMahon, with the top certificate of authenticities from Beckett and PSA or JSA, and nobody wants it. So this stuff has been sitting there for years and years and years, and I'm saying to myself, maybe it's better we just eliminate the prize wall, just put 2 or 3 things up every month and let people pick out what they like. And then maybe what I'll do is all those prizes, maybe I'll just end up slowly giving them away on YouTube and stuff like that. So, we definitely will look in on that as well. But, we're up here. We're going to get into our questions and comments for today. And, as we get into these, we'll, basically, move on into other topics. I know a lot of you out there want to hear Mish and I debate AEW heels. I actually have something negative to say about Brandy, even though I am 100% in favor of AEW heels. A lot of you out there are very curious as to my claim on Twitter that I have figured out the Retribution storyline. And I don't know if I'm going to be correct on this, but I actually have come up with a scenario that I think is going to play out. So which one would you like to tackle first? Start getting into the questions, AEW heels or Retribution?
Let's start with some questions first.
All right. Okay.
Heels though too. That was a fun conversation.
All right. Jason Allen. All right. When do you see, and I added WWE on this because the indie circuit already has wrestling events going on. AEW kind of tweaked with some fans in the Boondocks at Daly's place. But when do you see WWE finally bringing back fans at WWE events? Because there's still a lot of buzz that WWE is looking to do SummerSlam outside of the Performance Center, which I honestly do not believe at all. You know, it's not like everybody, hey, let's hop on Vince's plane, get on my plane. And then there's so much preparation that is needed. I just don't see them going to Atlantic City or anything else for SummerSlam.
It's amazing. We get asked this question every single show that we do. We get asked this question. When you think that WWE is coming back, when you guys think that the live events are going to come back? And it's kind of like we've always kind of hovered around the idea, like as soon as there's a vaccine, but I think that, you know, it won't be as far as you think. The idea of SummerSlam being a live event, being outdoors, almost like in a carnival. Look, let me put it to you this way. There are a lot of just small concerts, like local concerts, being done outdoors.
Right.
If small concerts with nowhere near the amount of professionalism and money behind them can have concerts, you know, like block parties and everything else like that going on, I can see WWE doing something sooner than later. So I know you don't have much faith in it, and I can see that in your environment out in New York City, it might be a little bit different. But there are plenty of other areas that are not directly in major cities that WWE could probably honestly do a show outdoors.
I agree. I tell you, with all of the stadiums, especially football, not doing anything. And now I know NFL is supposed to start, but there's so much controversy going on. I'm even questioning that.
Right.
I think because he wanted like a date prediction, I personally think that if you really, and I'm probably going to get this wrong, but my gut feeling is that WWE may return to live fans around Survivor Series time. That would be November 22nd. That would be after the election. I think the vaccine is coming out before the election. Trump will use that as and people will accuse him of using the vaccine for politics. I don't give a shit. The vaccine comes out early and he wants to use it against politics. If that's going to prevent me from getting COVID, I'm fine with it. You know, I mean, there's no secret. All of us, maybe not to the same degree, but all of us out there, you, me, everyone else, at some point in our lives, we use people. Maybe not maliciously, but you use people. And if Trump is going to use the vaccine for political purposes, I don't care. Give me the fucking vaccine. I think by Survivor Series, I think WWE will have fans again. And I wouldn't be surprised if Survivor Series happens in Florida. It's going to happen in a warm state, so they could possibly do it outside. I think Survivor Series.
All states are warm right now. I don't know about you. I mean, we haven't really talked about the weather, but dear Lord, it feels like it's hot every single day. It's hot. It's muggy. It's in the 90s all the damn time.
Yeah.
I think we got a break this week, literally, because it was 82.
I think tomorrow it's supposed to be almost 100 over here. You know,
look,
Tuesday.
It's not in every state.
yeah. I was talking to my mom last night because I'm going to go see them on Tuesday. And, you know, she was telling me that she's got a couple of relatives coming over Monday. And she's like, yeah, it's supposed to be close to 100. They're going in the pool. I'm like, 100? I didn't even hear this, but it is hot outside. By the way, you like my T-shirt?
That's awesome. I didn't see
that.
That.
I mean, we had a pretty fun game night last night. I mean, there was a lot of people playing that didn't have mics on, so the combo was pretty, you know, stagnant early on. But John Krauser showed up around 11:45. Good. And I thought I had recorded the whole show. I never used Xbox Live before, but apparently that's one of the easiest ways to record Steam games.
What you mean?
Huh?
XSplit?
Xbox Live. Apparently Xbox Live is something built into Windows 10 where you can actually record gaming and you could link up your Steam account with it. But it only recorded 38 minutes of gameplay last night. So I have to read up a little bit more because we did the Alien game last night. And in fact, I know John and Irishman and what's his name? Oh, Yuck Nasty. Everybody was like, oh man, we wish Mish was here. We actually, the humans won and pushed the button last night.
Really?
Yeah, the humans won, and I actually got all 3 members. And Krauser once again was a fucking alien. It was last night was one of the hilarious games with that alien game. I'm telling you, you'll find out. There was so many people like, oh my god, I wish Mish was here to see it. It was the way it went down was so fun, man. You had to see the drawings. I mean, some of the stuff that came up.
Did you recorded?
I don't think it recorded. I recorded about 40 minutes worth, but it was early. I know I recorded some quiplash, but I got to figure out why it stops recording. There's something that's stopping it, maybe switching games or something, but it should still keep the connection. So maybe there's a setting that automatically stops it after a certain period. So yeah, Freddie J was in there. Yeah, Freddie won the alien game as well yesterday. We had a lot of fun last night. So Drew Yari wants to know, if the pandemic did not happen, how much better do you think wrestling would be right now compared to March?
Honestly, I would say that if the pandemic didn't happen, AEW would be running roughshod over WWE. I think the ratings would not be in the toilet. I think AEW would have a clear, definitive lead over NXT on Wednesday nights.
Yeah,
and it would be a lot better on Monday too. I mean, it would be a run. Am I giving you echo or anything like that?
No, you sound good. Everybody says you sound fine.
All right. But, I think actually AEW would be doing fantastic if there was no fans being cut out of the audience. I think that's ruined wrestling all the way around, sadly.
Yeah. So. I think of some of the storylines that never came to flourish. And even, like I look at the women's wrestling situation, and, I have really avoided a lot of people online about the AEW women's wrestling situation because, it's not something that I want to debate over 320 characters on Twitter. But, I'll say this, and it's not even about AEW heels, but I know that there's a lot of people out there that want to use the current women's platform in AEW and use that as a criticism for AEW heels. And one thing I have not said online yet that I will definitely get into on Wednesday too, is that, what a lot of people I think fail to understand is that AEW wanted to have a much bigger Japanese platform as far as women's wrestling goes. From not just Shida, who is in the United States right now, but you see Jamie Hayter is not back. You see, what was that? Bea Priestley is not back. Other people they wanted to debut is not here because people cannot travel. So they basically really had to eliminate a lot of the women's wrestling because, you're not going to feature 20, 30 minutes of women's wrestling on Wednesday nights if you put aside Shida and your second most talented female is, with no disrespect intended, a Nyla Rose or Penelope Ford. Statlander is out with knee surgery. So, people immediately think that, they're ignoring women's wrestling. I mean, we're in the middle of COVID and there's a lot of people they want to have on that cannot travel, So I think I agree with you 100%. I think AEW could possibly be almost doubling their ratings right now if we did not have a pandemic. Yeah. I think of WCW in '95, and they had that, that Lucha Libre influence that really the United States was not, grabbing on. I think AEW's women's division would look dramatically different if we didn't have COVID right now.
I think all of it would. Like I said, I mean, even creatively, it would be a little bit more open. I think, I don't even think there would be an AEW heels. Personally, I think AEW heels is a last-ditch attempt for Brandy to start making money for the company. That's what it is.
Yeah. And, some areas COVID is doing really, really well. And I'm reading what Donnie is saying, that he works in a hospital in Victoria, British Columbia. And they've cleaned 42 isolation rooms and had an increase of COVID cases. There are definitely some areas where cases are increasing. And again, I said this months ago, and I apologize for anybody I offended who live in those areas, but I think facts are facts. There's a lot of young people out there who are just flat out, not taking COVID seriously. They're treating it like, oh, if I walk into a club and have sex with someone, hey, if I get a little gonorrhea, I just get a needle for it and I'm good. It's like a lot of people are not taking it seriously. New York, they put a really big scare in. So New York, our cases are extremely low. But you go in areas like Florida, New Orleans, Texas, Arizona, where everything is beach weather, and not only that, that's tourism. Right. When you go to Florida, you don't go to Florida to just hang out indoors all day long. People go to Florida to take in the rays, go on the beach. Young people go to South Beach, Miami, and a lot of the cases are young people who are not taking it seriously. The protests certainly did not help. COVID does not care if you're about Black Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter, Black and Blue Lives Matter, White Lives Matter. It does not care. It does not discriminate. And a lot of people do not take it seriously. In my neck of the woods, almost everybody wears a mask. Everybody social distances. Everybody is taking it so seriously, and the low cases that we have over here reflect that. If people would just take this shit seriously for a month or two, a majority of this virus would be gone. But, you look at the video, you see on the news, I look at Florida. I mean, I'll even criticize the opposite side. I think Jericho performed yesterday with Fozzy, and they had like tens of thousands of bikers and all hanging out, and they're not wearing a mask. To me, those are very careless people as well. So until people really take this shit seriously, this is going to stay around for a while. But wrestling would be so much better.
Have you eaten out yet? Have you eaten in a restaurant yet?
Well, I said this a week or two ago. I don't think I said it with you, but I took my fiance on vacation in was it April? No, it was in I think June, it was in June. It was in June. Yeah. And I wanted to just, Connecticut, that area was doing really well with the virus, and I thought, let's try to get away from all of this stress and everything, stay in the hotel, of course you have to keep a mask on and stuff like that, and just try to lift a lot of her paranoia about it. And to me, it was a disaster. We had a nice time, but, the waiter had the mask on, but, kept his nose exposed a little bit. And she's like, why is he not wearing the mask properly? I'm like, honey, I mean, I don't think he talks out of his nose. She's really paranoid. So about 2 weeks ago, my friend's restaurant, they have outdoor seating. So I had said to her, I said, look, let's go to, so-and-so's restaurant. We haven't gone out to dinner at all since March. Let's sit outside, and we'll just enjoy ourselves. And, I had taken a picture. I know a lot of you seen it. I took a picture of her sitting at the dinner table outside, went to get a drink, and the guy came out not wearing a mask. And that was it. She was almost having panic attacks. I ended up taking the food to go, and I said, I am not going out to dinner with her again until she shows me that she's not paranoid about this virus anymore. And there's a lot of people that I totally respect it, but I told her, I said, you still think it's March? Well, we have crazy amounts of cases. You can go outside, but she's just totally paranoid about it. So we don't. So
I mean, it's such an we're such at an odd standstill, because obviously businesses need to continue, but at the same time, we also need to continue being vigilant and keeping this virus in check. And the only way to do that is by wearing masks, by wearing gloves, by being vigilant, about being clean. And you're put in situations where you have to be close to other people, or you have to take off your mask. like eating for one. I think that if you're doing an outdoor event, I mean, like, let's paint the picture here. If WWE is going to have this outdoor event, or if AEW is going to have an outdoor event, I think it's okay, but you have to keep everybody in the crowd, in the audience, masked up. I think that that's a necessity at this point. You know, I think you just kind of have to grit down and bear it. I don't think you're going to get the turnouts for a while. I mean, I don't know what you think, but I don't think that wrestling itself will return to the same kind of crowds. I mean, even beforehand, the crowds were suffering, but even to that point, I think it'll take at least another year.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, the crowds, you know, I think WWE, they would have to set up, you know, I can't remember what promotion it was. I actually gave him props earlier. There's a promotion out there that did an event yesterday on a football field, and they set up the chairs like really spread apart. And, you know, it looked a little bit empty, but the way they set it up, people were far enough from each other that you just couldn't help but commend them for doing that. And I'll look up my Twitter as we go along. I'll mention the promotion. In fact, I'll probably even look it up now. But yeah, go ahead.
Even on flights now, from like Southwest only has 3 rows going. So far left, far right, and middle. That's it.
Yeah.
So they're even leaving all the seats next to you completely open, and they're still not filling up those flights.
It was Warrior Wrestling, and I just downloaded their picture, and I'm going to show you what their setup looked like yesterday. Luckily, I'm able to pull these things up pretty quickly, but that's how it looked. I mean, it does look kind of empty. Kind of looks like, you know, people like leaving to go home, but that's actually how and you know what? In the middle of a pandemic, I think that actually looks pretty damn good. The problem is that WWE, like, I don't think they want to acknowledge in any of how they come off on TV. Like, I don't think WWE would ever want an event taped that looks like that. Like, even around on Raw and SmackDown, they avoid as much as possible the camera around the ringside area. So I don't even WWE would even be proud of something like that. You know?
See, the stands, though, I could see them doing the stands where they would skip 2 stands and then have another row of people split up and then skip 2 stands. It would look better in the audience, especially if it's a little more uniform. See, the difference with this is, even though that looks like people are in their safe zone and stuff, the reality is it looks so chaotic. Like, people are just sprawled about like it's a picnic or something.
Yeah, but that kind of looks like the beach. Like, if you replace the football field and put sand over there, that looks like wrestling on a beach.
Right. But I'm saying for WWE, they would have stands, they would have an arena. They wouldn't do it in just some park. Yeah. There's no way. But I could absolutely see them having stands and making it a little bit more uniform, putting a rope in your section in order to separate you, like one of those like clip-on ropes that they use at movie theaters. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I can see it being done without making you feel excessively like isolated. You know what I mean? I think people can still have fun and still be separated without, you know, just this insane look to it where it's like, oh my gosh, what's the point of even having people? At this point, people are obviously necessary for an audience, for an entertainment show that's based upon audience reaction.
Right.
It's based upon making the audience believe. And if you don't have an audience there, even the ones at home, as we've seen for the last few months, it doesn't play out as well. You know?
Surprises me that WWE hasn't gone to some states that have pretty much no cases at all. I mean,
Connecticut is fantastic. Why are they not doing it in Connecticut?
I don't know.
Connecticut, as far as the list of like states that are doing well for themselves, Connecticut is fantastic.
I personally think that WWE has gone to yes. No, I don't. I don't think so. Asking me if I have sprinkles for cupcakes.
Right in your pocket. Isn't that where you keep? I keep my sprinkles right here.
You know, I think I got sprinkles somewhere, but I can't look now. But sprinkles. God bless her. But hey, everybody, let's pause the show. I got to get sprinkles.
Hold on, Right here. Want some sprinkles?
Hey, honey,
Here's some sprinkles.
I
Want
think
some
there's
sprinkles?
that confetti that... Oh, no? Oh, okay, sorry.
There's some sprinkles in there? No?
That's why I like doing Patreon shows. You know, we could be a little bit more disarray over here, but I don't know. You know, like, I truthfully believe that WWE sent an email to all of their wrestlers and staff and said to them, would they, and probably let them anonymously vote, and said, would you be willing to perform in an area where there are almost zero COVID cases? And I have a feeling that a lot of people came back and said no, that they don't feel comfortable performing anywhere but the Performance Center. And the problem is, if they did that anonymously, see, it's kind of a sticky situation, because you don't want to put anybody on the spot where they feel if they vote no, like their push may go away. But at the same time, if you do it anonymously, and let's say half your roster says no, they don't want to compete anywhere outside of the Performance Center, if you say, okay, well, still half our roster is willing to do it, you don't know what half is willing to do it. So you almost have to know name specific in order to book elsewhere. Plus, here's another thing. You know, do you change your storyline? Let's say WWE is can do an event in Connecticut or Atlantic City or in Vermont or somewhere where there's very little cases.
Right.
But some people who wrestle in a Performance Center do not feel comfortable going to one event. Do you change a month's worth of storylines to feature only the people that are willing to go to that area, that pay-per-view? And then once that pay-per-view is over, you go back. You know, what happens if, let's say, Bayley and Sasha Banks I'm just using for example, don't want to perform in Atlantic City? Do you do a storyline where they're suspended for 30 days and instead you have other? It's very, very difficult. I think you either have to go balls out as far as going to other areas and start touring, or you don't do it at all. I think it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. That's why I personally think there is no way SummerSlam is taking place anywhere but either the Performance Center or somewhere outside right near the Performance Center. I don't see them going to Atlantic City or some of I think these are people just wishing, hoping, guessing.
Sure. Well, of course, fans are going to obviously be misleading because they hope that WWE and AEW will start doing live events again. But I don't think it's so far out of the ballpark that those ideas, those beliefs can't be real.
Right.
I think that there's absolutely venues. I think that there's absolutely areas. Like the first thing I was thinking of was, well, in Chicagoland, where in the hell would you have an outdoor center? Right. And then I'm thinking like Alpine Valley, or the World that they call it now, which is just it's like a huge stage, but all of that area is completely open. It's grass. You know, there's some seating areas in the front, but when you get up to the top of the actual Alpine, it's all grass, man. You can just sit there and make up your own seats.
Yeah.
So I can see WWE doing something like that, and then you would have the actual wrestling in the middle. And then you have a giant. You know, they have the giant like monitor or whatever it is, the Titantron ×2, you know, above it, so people can actually see the close-up action, which is what the cameras are recording.
Right.
I think it can be done. I don't think it's is so crazy right now that it was back in May.
Sure, I absolutely agree. I personally think they should do it for a house show. Do it where it's not televised. You know, like they did those. I was the last Great American Bash. That was a house show, I think it was. You do a house show. Don't even televise it. You know, just do it as a test. See how it goes. You don't even have to have your regulars there that are not willing to travel at all. Do you have enough people on the rosters? You could have a little bit of NXT, a little bit of Raw, a little bit of SmackDown. I think you could put together a pretty nice card out of that and do a house show. And try it out, see how it goes, and if it's well received, even if it only draws 100, nobody needs to, you know, there'll probably be photos and stuff like that, but I personally think that's an excellent idea. By the way, Donnie, We don't do super chats on Patreon because, you know, we don't want to take any, you know, revenue from it. Yeah, this is for our patrons.
Why would you do that?
Yeah, I would never do that. Yeah, you if you have something to ask, I mean, you know, you ask. You know, you're not ignored. Dayak, I don't know what you mean if I have cookies. Oh, I do have cookies. I actually made cookies for her yesterday, believe it or not. And there was one other day. Oh, I got to mention this quickly before I forget. I'm happy to announce that Mish and I are starting to figure out and set up a Patreon Hall of Fame. And this is going to, and look, I have thought about this for a while. The problem is that you want to put everybody in the Hall of Fame at the same time, and I don't want anybody to feel left out. It's not as easy as everybody thinks out there, but what we're going to do is we're going to get a T-shirt designed for, you know, Breakfast Soup and Patreon, and it's going to have a Hall of Fame theme to it. And I think maybe like once a month we're going to induct a couple of people in the Patreon Hall of Fame. And even if you're no longer a Patreon member, you're in the Hall of Fame, you're in the Hall of Fame for life. So on the websites, on YouTube, across the board, there'll always be a little Hall of Fame wall, and your name pops up on there. Your name is there until everything is shut down. So that is definitely something that is being worked on. So we will definitely be doing a Patreon Hall of Fame. So definitely look out for that. So, but anyway, let's get back to the questions, I think.
Sure.
Anna, shout out to Anna, Don Tony's political advisor. Do we see Karrion Kross being the Brock Lesnar of NXT, where nobody could really take him out, and when somebody does, it becomes a special occurrence, a special event?
I don't think he's on that level.
I agree.
But he is going to be a force to be reckoned with. You're going to need somebody like a Keith Lee in order to take him down.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if it's going to be right away, because obviously they've got beef now that they've been kind of leading up to for a minute. I don't know if I see him losing his streak already, though.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? I think he still has a lot of fire behind him. So,
are you thinking who I'm thinking, who could be the Brock Lesnar of NXT?
Oh, please don't say Bronson. I mean, I'd love it, but
he's a likable guy. But no. He made his debut recently on NXT.
Yeah.
Ridge Holland.
Yeah.
I think Ridge Holland is going to be a fucking sick-ass motherfucker as far... It's like Brock Lesnar meets Mark Henry meets every... Like, really? I mean, I just love his in-ring work.
He looks like an extra from Peaky Blinders.
He does. And I did enjoy your whole show Thursday, by the way. I actually... I wanted to set up the echo chamber just so once you could tonight do Cardona. I couldn't stop laughing when I kept hearing that. But no, he does look like an ex. They got to tweak his look a little bit. But man, that guy has potential. That guy has some crazy ass potential.
It was great first match to put him in with like Oni. Oni is amazing too.
Yes. Only walking they have to change something.
They got to give him. I can't stand his name. I think me and Joe have made fun of his name for years, but the name is really rough. You know, Oni Lorcan.
I put it in the same category as Cassius Ono.
Yeah, it's just awful. It's just an awful name. Like,
I don't know who came up with that.
Oni, you know.
Yeah. I mean, what are they going to do? You're going to have somebody feud with him and call him, you know, like The Rock, call him Oni Jabroni. You know, it's like beefaroni. You know, don't be a jabroni. Eat your beefaroni, Oni. I hate that name. It's a bad name.
I'm not sure who it is in the chat room. Sorry, I can't read Japanese. If you started Rich Holland, which name are you keeping? Yeah, if you keep him as Mr. Holland, he sounds like, I don't know, like one of the bad guys from Clue. Like one of the people.
Yeah.
Mr. Holland in the laboratory with the candlestick. You know, it's just, I don't know. Yeah. The names, the people that name people in NXT are just. I don't know if they do it as a joke and they're just saying, like, get over anyways. Because I always kind of felt like, maybe you can explain this to me because maybe you have a better understanding, but I always thought that the reason that they give people such garbage names in NXT is so that they can get over themselves regardless of how stupid their name is. Kind of like a challenge, kind of like a let's see what you got kind of deal. Or is it just the person that's throwing out the names doesn't care? I don't know what it is.
I tell you, I've seen enough interviews from wrestlers who came originally from NXT, and I go down the line, and a lot of wrestlers have in interviews have talked about how that they actually came up with a lot of their name. I mean, you go down the list from Becky Lynch to others, like they all came up with stories on how, they came up with this part of the name or this part of the name, even, Karrion Kross. Carrion, if anybody knows about the term carrion, like a lot of wrestlers have input on their own names. So, maybe, only Lorcan had input on that name. I don't know. But man, it's a horrible choice to come up with. But
I always just put it in line with Dusty Rhodes' polka dots. I just figure it's the office kind of having a laugh, but at the same time, here's the challenge.
I don't think WWE's in any position right now to mock some of their up-and-coming bright stars that actually could have ultimately money behind them. Why would you even create a profile of someone with such a horrible name and then change it later on?
They had a history of that, though. I mean, look at what they did to Saban, Chris Saban. Look at what they did to Monty Brown as Marquis Corvan.
Marcus Corvan.
I mean,
Corvan.
Yeah, WWE's had a history of doing little things, and I don't necessarily always think that it's a malicious aspect to them. I always thought it was more of a challenge. But I mean, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I think what happens also is they want to come up with such unique names of some people. Like you don't see your Johns or your Joeys or your Toms, or you do see some, but there's always you got Keith, but they like some of these people. There's always like these outrageous names: Ridge, Oni, Carrion.
And Razor.
I mean, it's I don't know. Some of the names are just really like
Razor be Bob and Steve.
Yeah.
Bob Murder, Steve Killer.
I could see Akam and Razor, because of like how big and monsters they are. So you don't want them as Jim and Bob. Hey, it's Jim and Bob. What's Jim doing here? Bob is destroying everybody. It's just so you want to have like a real unique name. But for some people out there, I don't get it. I just don't get it. Well, by the way, I brought this up on Friday. Look, there's no secret. Karrion Kross, big supporter of what we do, even before he got into wrestling. And, I want him to succeed probably more than anybody in NXT, but I have pointed out for 3 weeks in a row that Keith Lee and Karrion Kross's quarter-hour segments have been pretty much the lowest, close to the lowest in the entire NXT programming. He's still new, and he still has to develop. I kind of compare it to Keith Lee a year ago. His ratings were not all that spectacular. But when you talk about popping ratings, they're not popping ratings on NXT. They've consistently 3 weeks in a row have been on the low end of NXT's overall rating.
Surprising to me because I think that the shows are doing better. I mean,
yes.
As far as I'd say the most popular storyline in NXT right now is kind of bad. I'm not a huge fan of this Adam Cole and Pat McAfee thing. I'm just not. I have no urge to see it. But Killer Cross versus Keith Lee, Mercedes Martinez coming out and taking out Rhea Ripley. That kind of being her first feud in the mix of NXT. I'm in favor of obviously seeing guys like, Bronson every week is pretty amazing. So there's a little list of there's a lot of positives in NXT that I'm enjoying the hell out of. So it's kind of surprising to me that they're still just so low on the totem pole as far as the ratings are going. But then again, we're in a situation where everything is kind of wacky and topsy-turvy anyway. So I haven't really, and I don't mean any disrespect to AEW fans or even the company, which is surprising coming from
I have a feeling you're going to say what I'm about to say.
I don't blame anyone for the status of the ratings right now. And I think at any point of wrestling fandom or wrestling criticisms or wrestling journalism or whatever the hell you want to call it, right now is the time that it means the least to be ahead or behind in the ratings. And I know that people use the ratings in order to get an understanding of where their sponsorships lie, how much their sponsors are depending on them, how much money the company is making from those views. But I think right now, specifically this year, is kind of a wash. No matter where you stand, like, AEW's won every single week. That's fantastic. I don't think it matters.
I hope people understand when I say this, but even though NXT wrestlers get offended when you make this comment, I think facts are facts. WWE treats NXT like what baseball treats the AAA division. It is one step below the major leagues. And yes, there are many baseball players who are in the AAA division that are major league ready, but there isn't an opportunity open. So I compare Wednesday night. AEW is not a AAA organization. They are the major leagues. You know what I mean? Like AEW Dark would be the equivalent of NXT, if you want to look at it that way. So you're basically comparing WWE's AAA affiliate to AEW, which is the major league affiliate. And very rarely are you going to get a major league affiliate lose to the rating of a AAA affiliate. Some AAA baseball players may be doing a hell of a lot better than Major League Baseball players go. But I agree, Cassette, and I say this repeatedly, mostly on Wednesday nights. You cannot really dissect ratings and content in the middle of the COVID era. There's so many people that are not performing right now. There's so many things that the companies are holding off on until they could get fans in attendance. And I think some people just way overanalyze it too much.
I think a lot of us, not all of us, but I think there's a large contingent of people that cannot accept the way things are right now, which is understandable. And so they rely on old laurels in order to push forward their own narrative of pro AEW, pro NXT, pro WWE, whatever it may be. I think a lot of us have been affected to the point where we don't understand what a new world like this is like. Even still, even though we've been in it for the last 6 months, I don't think that that's gotten through to everyone yet. I mean, you can just look politically, and without getting political, but you can look at it politically, how much this has changed the climate just between different cities, different towns, different states.
Sure.
And when you're looking at it from an entertainment perspective of what you watch on TV, your live games and stuff like that, that's been a hot button topic now for a few months.
Right.
And I'm not just talking about wrestling, although wrestling's been a hot button topic politically for a lot of people for pretty much since before WrestleMania. And now you're trying to throw in the idea of, well, you've got to look at the sponsors. How in the hell is anyone supposed to take the ratings seriously when the sports themselves, all of the sports, are completely crippled without an audience? How are you supposed to take it seriously? Yeah. So when it comes to the ratings war, the Wednesday night wars, that I still see some real diehard people on both sides just kind of getting up in people's faces about it. It's like, are you just dense? Do you not see that the entire world around us is burning? And you want everything here, just in your little area, just in the wrestling bubble, you want that to be completely the same? It's not.
Right.
It's not.
Right.
So I'd say the best thing for anybody to do is not pay attention to the ratings.
Right.
Just watch the shows and then gauge you like and dislike?
I don't care about the overall ratings because we're in the middle of COVID. But I have pointed out for a while now that wrestling on Wednesday night is done just as good of a rating as Monday Night Wrestling. Nobody pays attention to that. And something else that I actually got a lot of thank yous for, I didn't even think it was a big deal, but people pointed out to me, you know, when I do on Friday nights the breakdown quarter by quarter of AEW versus NXT, I think that's important because of the wrestling fans that are watching. You want to see where they're turning it off and where they're keeping their interest. I think that's very important. And Monday and the first hour of Wednesday Night Wrestling, I didn't see not one website write this. Hour one of Wednesday Night's Wrestling did over 1.7 million, not 1.6. It's because nobody takes the time to research hour number one and hour two. They just look at the overall chart, you know, that chart that everybody looks at with the green and the yellow graphs. But Wednesday Night Wrestling, the first hour, did over 1.7 million. I mean, that's pretty damn impressive, you know, and that's just a snapshot. But
people are in their regular, they're not in their regular habits anymore.
But you also want to,
you 1.7, you're saying 1.7, which is fantastic. But the reality is if there was an audience there, if there were more
even higher.
The week before had a better lead off, that 1.7 might have ended up being 1.9 or 2 by the end of the show.
I agree.
So it's like, it's not, how do I put it?
You can't take the rating too seriously, but you want to know if fans are staying glued to what you're doing. You know, like people have pointed out, like, oh, AEW almost never has women perform on quarter 7 or quarter 2. You know, and that's done by design.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's a little too much. I would never get that technical.
Right.
But James Moss asks, since we're talking about wrestling right now with COVID, what's the most cringeworthy part of wrestling today? For him, it's Aubrey Edwards being way too animated in her matches.
She is way too animated. But no, that's not my number one. My number one is every single wrestler coming out to the ring and waving at the audience and trying to intimidate the audience, getting up on the top rope and looking at basically doing the Christian thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's nobody there. You look like an idiot. Stop pretending that people are there. Just because we have to pretend your angle is real doesn't mean you have to sit there and pretend that the audience is real. And so many wrestlers do it. It's because they're in their shtick, they're in their mode, and it's like, stop it. Just stop doing your shtick for a minute. You can come out to the ring. NXT caught that at some point, and they've kind of fixed up a lot of it. Not all of it, but they fixed up a lot of it. But you'll see a lot of it on Monday night. You'll see it on Friday night. You'll see it even on Wednesday and on AEW. So it's definitely not just a WWE thing. So
my favorite intro so far, entrance, when Big E rolled down the rampway. Last week's SmackDown, when he just rolled down the rampway. He just laid down and just rolled down the rampway. It was just, you know, like, you know, let me just like have fun and just come out. Yeah, I agree with you, man. You know, acting like this.
Either make fun or come out and just be serious. Just be ready for your match. Either way works. It's like either way works. But going through the shtick, it really lets you know how fake everything is sometimes.
I defend Aubrey Edwards because she has toned down a lot of the animation compared to when AEW first started. But I do agree, she's still and AEW, you know, okays that. You know, they're fine with it. They tell her, look, you know, you're a powerful woman, you know, and a lot of women look up to her that as far as AEW goes, and show your power, show your authority. And I agree, it's a little too animated, but it's not as bad as what it was a year ago. Or close to a year ago. There's going to be a
storyline that comes from that will be amazing one day. That's all I'm going to say.
Want to get into Retribution for a second?
Sure.
What'd you think of it Friday?
For SmackDown, unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to watch any of it,
okay.
Sir.
All right.
I've had somebody in this week, and I mean, you know about that. I've had visitors this week, so even now I have visitors in the other room.
Well, I'll
So
say
I apologize
this.
for being late earlier, but
I'll say this. Friday on SmackDown, Retribution shows up. They, they had weapons, but I made fun Friday how they dropped the weapons before they beat up people, and they're punching sideways, and they, have a big chainsaw instead of destroying the set a la Nexus. They just cut the ring rope, just really goofy. And it kind of hit me all of a sudden. And I think Monday is going to answer if my hunch is correct. Now, I don't know if you've seen the pictures of the people who are in the masks and the outfits. They look like they were 5 feet tall. They all looked very small, not intimidating. And again, it was almost on the level of comedy that they had all these weapons, but they dropped the weapons before they hit people, which was ridiculously stupid. But it hit me. It hit me. And I think Monday is going to be the telltale sign if I'm right or not. I see a lot of people out there trying to predict who is going to be under the masks. And I see a lot of people bring up, was it Vanessa Bourne? They're bringing up a couple of people from Evolve. They're bringing up possibly Chelsea Green. They're bringing up Dijakovic. Dijakovic, like I said, the people under the mask were 5 feet tall. And although some of those names may end up being revealed, before any goof out there is like, hey, I told you, I was right. This and that. My question to all of them, everybody watching also is, the name of the faction is called Retribution. Tell me why Chelsea Green would want retribution against WWE. What did WWE do? Take her off TV for 3 weeks? That's not retribution. Retribution, if you Google the definition, this is revenge and, taking big time revenge. And if you put some of those names under the mask, what are they? That's why my original thought was, hey, make the faction end up being people that you released during COVID, and you rehire them now because you're getting out of COVID and you're starting to build for normalcy again. And it could be, lesser names that were let go. And, it would kind of elevate them a little bit, that they're retribution for being fired during COVID. Then I started thinking that WWE really doesn't want to acknowledge COVID on TV. So I kind of think, although a great idea, I thought, it probably wouldn't surpass on TV. Then it hit me. It hit me like a ton of bricks. And I don't know if I'm going to be right. Let me just say it out there. But I thought about it. You know who I think is behind the whole retribution?
Who's that?
I said it yesterday. And everybody who was in game night was like, oh, shit. It fucking hit me. And it's all going to depend on Monday night. Shane McMahon. Cut the ring ropes because Raw Underground has no ropes. Shane McMahon has been a footnote as far as WWE the last 8-9 months. Everything's about Triple H. Everything's about Stephanie. Everything's about Vince. The Retribution group somehow shows up the same time that Shane McMahon starts Raw Underground. If you notice, they did not show up at Raw Underground and start beating up the people there. So if Retribution does not show up and do anything to Shane McMahon's group, I'm thinking maybe Shane McMahon is sabotaging Raw and SmackDown. And then by doing that, you can have Chelsea Green under the mask. You can have anybody under the mask because they're doing the work for Shane McMahon. Shane McMahon is just, I think Shane McMahon might be the person behind Retribution. I don't know if it's going to be, but...
Well, then what do you think of Underground?
I like it. I like it. I wanted a debate, Kev, so bad on Monday, because you know me, I love debating. Not that I'm trying to intimidate anybody, but I love debating.
Master debater.
Yeah. And we'll do that with about AEW heels in a little bit, but I saw what he was saying, and he pretty much didn't like it. I said, okay, this is going to be a great debate. And as soon as we started talking about it, then it was oh, let me see this a little bit longer. And I think that's cool. But there's a lot of people that immediately, and I'm not saying him, I'm just saying online, a lot of people immediately shit all over the Raw Underground thing. And now you see CM Punk loves it. Now you see other people liking it. I wrote on YouTube an hour before it even happened. I said, I think Raw Underground could help Lashley. You might even end up seeing Lesnar over there. You might see Lars show up at Raw Underground. You could utilize people there that you cannot fit into storylines on regular WWE programming. I love the idea. The women dancing and everything, they're going to tease attitude, but they'll never be attitude. But I really liked it, and I have a feeling this has got to lead somewhere. And I just think it's too coincidental that Raw Underground and Retribution happen to show up at the same time, and Retribution didn't do anything to Raw Underground. So I want to see what happens Monday. But I think ultimately you have a bunch of Retribution in the ring. Somebody has to be the leader.
Yeah.
Tommaso Ciampa would be great for it. There's a lot of people who would be great for it. But I think whoever unmasks that's behind it has to be someone who is really intimately related to WWE. And it's got to be somebody of authority. I think it's going to be Shane McMahon. What do you think?
I don't know. I think Shane has his hands full with Monday. I think, splitting him too finely over two different shows for specifically two different revolutionary purposes might not be the best use of Shane McMahon. Don't get me wrong. Of all the McMahons that could be in charge right now, Shane McMahon has the best name, if only because of his past and only because he's not so tied with the authority, the Vince McMahon feel to him, where he would be immediately placed in that same cast. I think him running Underground is good, and I enjoy that. But Retribution, once again, I mean, other than reading some stuff online, I didn't see the full episode of it, so I didn't see what actually happened with it. I do apologize for that. It's one of those weekends where I actually have some
real life always comes first, my friend.
Right.
I totally agree with you.
I know. I'm just trying not to be a jerk about it, but I would think that if you're introducing a new faction, I don't know if you'd want to put Shane McMahon in two different pots like that.
No, I think it's all intertwined. I think Retribution is part of Raw Underground. This is just me brainstorming, so I could be way off on this, but I think the fact that Retribution and Raw Underground came about at the same time, they didn't interact with Raw Underground at all. And then it's got to lead to, 5-foot people unmasking, and it's all pretty much, Evolve and some NXT people not use. Like, who's really going to care about that? They're in no position to make demands. So, and again, for everybody out there that, brings up Chelsea Green and others, I ask you the number one question. What retribution do they have? What's their reason for retribution? She wasn't released. Oh, I'm fighting because of Cardona being released. That's like, you have to have a real deep reason for retribution. And for me, Shane McMahon makes the most sense.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So I have not seen one website, one podcaster, anybody intertwine Raw Underground and Retribution. So I like being different. So I'm throwing it out there. I know a lot of people really loved my idea of Lars being part of Raw Underground. I'm telling you, this has so much potential. I actually love it. Look, Nia Jax, Tamina. I wouldn't be surprised if Tamina's on Raw Underground and starts choking out women. I think it has potential. I really do. I really like it. So, we're going to do the giveaway of the Chromebook in a couple of minutes. I apologize for anybody who tuned in late that did not get in on the entries. I don't want to be a dick by saying if you snooze, you lose. But, as you can see, the wheel is filled with names. And we'll spin it in a little while, and we'll have a winner. And when we do in fact, this might end up being a regular occurrence instead of the prize wall. Maybe we'll do, a prize wall giveaway. And for anybody that doesn't want to be part of it, doesn't have to. And when the wheel fills up, we'll spin it. We'll give out some stuff. We'll do this from time to time. And the great thing about it is that's plastic over the wheel. So I have this cleaner and I just wipe it down and the ink is gone. So it's not like permanent, like the names, I can't clean them off. So Andrew 914, is Eric Bischoff the only one to ever be part of AWA, WCW, WWF, TNA, AEW, etc.? Possible. I mean, AEW is still fairly new.
Jim Ross.
Jim Ross, I think Jim Ross was part of AWA. Was JR part of AWA for a little while?
Yeah.
But he wasn't part of TNA, though. He wasn't part of TNA.
No. He was a part of the NWA.
Yeah. If you take out AEW, then you could come up with a lot of other people. Larry Zbyszko comes to mind.
No, Jim Ross, he did announcing for AEW. As far as TNA, I think you're right. He wasn't a part of TNA itself. No.
Yeah. See, the thing is, AEW closed down in the late 80s. Or early 90s. I don't remember the exact date. We talked about
AWA, you mean?
AWA. No. AEW's on the list too, but the AWA promotion closed like 30 years ago. So there's really you're not gonna have any real wrestlers who are wrestling today that really were a part of AWA. So if anything, it would just be people behind the scenes. Cassette Classics, you bring up a really interesting name that you could very well be right. Diamond Dallas Page. I don't remember if DDP was part of AWA, but if he was, that's actually a pretty good one. You think of legends. I don't know if Medusa ever showed up on TNA, but, you see.
I think she did. I'm pretty sure she did.
Yeah, Rock and Roll Express. Rock and Roll Express, I don't know if they ever competed in AWA, but they certainly competed in a lot of the other promotions. So it would be because that's right. Yes, he was part of Bad Company. So DDP would be on that list. You would be on that list. So it's a very small group of people. And I do remember Matt Rats. For anybody out there that doesn't remember Matt Rats, back in 2001, I believe it was, or 2002, Bischoff and Jason Hervey wanted to launch a promotion called Matt Rats. It was based out of out of Canada, and it was going to feature wrestlers under the age of 21. And it was wrestlers between the ages of, I think, 14 and 21. And I even did some research before. Teddy Hart was a part of it. Natty was a part of it. Harry Smith, TJ Wilson, Jack Evans, they were all a part of it. Don Callis and Joey Styles were the commentators. The reason why it failed was because they shopped it around the TV networks and nobody wanted to portray teenagers wrestling, especially under the age of 16, So they wanted to have everybody wrestle under 21, but they have wrestlers that were 14 years old in that promotion. So that's why that failed. So, and one last thing, he notes that there's a new game on Nintendo Switch called Pixel Action Heroes, and he's surprised that Hulk Hogan never sued because they have his likeness on there. And in case you've all never seen this before, that's what Pixel Action Heroes looks like. Just two things, and some of you out there might be interested in checking it out. Number one, Pixel Action Heroes has been around for 3+ years already. And not only that, Pixel Action Heroes actually spoofs a lot of celebrities. They spoof Bruce Lee, Chuck Norris, The Rock, Hulk Hogan, Dolph Lundgren, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Jackie Chan, Steven Seagal. I even think possibly Sylvester Stallone, Wesley Snipes, and Donald Trump, they spoof as well. So if anybody out there has never seen this, here's a little quick trailer of this video game. But again, it's been around for a couple of years, and I'm pretty sure that every celebrity signed off on this, but it looks like a pretty funny game. So check this out, everybody.
Adolf Weisniger, Doc Morissette, Silver Stan Alone, Steven Senegal, Wade Thompson, Jackie Jane, Gregor Blue Green, Bruce Leaf, Eastleigh Snaps, Cloud One Drone, Paul Holligan, Ronald Triumph,
So obviously that is directly a ripoff of those characters, but I'm pretty certain that all of them signed off on it. But yeah, instead of Donald Trump, it's Ronald Triumph. But yeah, that game's been around for a couple of years now. So if anybody out there wants to check out maybe a game they've never seen before. So let's get in some more questions because we got a lot of them, and I know you have company you got to deal with. Paul Bielowski, thank you for the Mets cards. I got them in the mail. I actually got them a couple of days ago. I didn't open the envelope until yesterday, so thank you very much for that. Definitely going to try to figure out how to display them in the back. Problem is the camera's so far back. And speaking of cameras, for anybody out there that's into photography, I actually have on the way a Sony Alpha 6100. That is going to be my new camera for the shows over here. My Logitech Brio, the little webcam, that is going to go bye-bye. And I'm actually going to go to the next phase. I'm going to put a actual professional mirrorless camera in here. So it's either going to debut next week or the week after. I actually got to learn how to use it first. And like I told you, you know, if you could use a good webcam, I'm going to send one your way, you know. So a lot of people were telling me, get a camera. You know, the webcam is good and everything, but if I want to, you know, start going to the next level with everything, I'm going to set up the mirrorless camera. Plus you know, the once in a while when you do webcam, like the video gets a little distorted. Sometimes it resets. I know YouTube, it buffers a little. Camera, it's night and day. So I'm going to be setting that up. So, and Paul, I know there's a lot of reports that there's going to be a draft in October. Right now, I would just take that with a grain of salt. Because doing a draft and not having, you know, wrestling come back to normalcy a little bit, I don't think that's possible, especially in the middle of these storylines with Retribution. Plus, you're a month before Survivor Series. So I don't know if you're going to be shaking things up a month before Survivor Series. If anything, they want to push Survivor Series. So I would not really take much, you know, credence into that for now. Mish, have you ever seen the Island Retreat show and Temptation Island on USA Network?
I think I've passed by it a couple times, but it's not my forte of reality show. I mean, all of those girl guy shows, for the most part, are not for me. I don't enjoy them. You know, they're all cornball, and everybody needs to fuck everybody and then go kill themselves. I don't know. I'm just not a fan of those shows.
I hate them, man.
You know?
They're not
remember
sympathetic.
when they did the Temptation Island on USA? You know, it's just there's no sympathy. It's like everybody comes off as just a scumbag human being. So
I mean, when you see them cry, I'm actually happy. I'm like, good, you deserved it. Everybody who gets screwed on those shows, I cannot think of any time that I've ever seen one of those shows and said to myself, you know, I really feel bad for that person. You show up on a fucking island called Temptation Island on a reality TV show where everybody is acting promiscuous, and you think in reality that there's a chance that the person you're with is not going to do the same. Every person that gets, and I don't mean this to sound really cold, but every person who gets burned on that show that ends up getting some type of emotional disorder, or you deserve it. You deserve it. Because some people out there, and I talk about it on social media all the time, there are people out there who have totally fucked their social life and even the way that they interact with people, because they have replaced a real eye-to-eye, real-life interaction with typing on social media. You know, I feel a little down in the dumps, so I'll just type a little tweet that gets everybody's attention towards me. I'll tell everybody, keep your thoughts and prayers of my uncle, you know, blah, 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 blah. And, it's true. You know, my toe hurts. They might have to cut it off. Everybody, keep your fingers crossed. I got to go to there's an emotion. People out there that are lonely. That I feel bad for people like that, but you know, and you got to keep a nice balance. And unfortunately, social media has become toxic. Now, I guess we could segue into this. I know you and I are on the opposite sides of the spectrum, and this will answer Ben Salmon and a bunch of others out there. They want our thoughts on AEW heels. But I will say this. I have followed it closely because I have defended it. And, you know, for me, AEW heels is nothing more than a fan club, an AEW fan club for women. And I will just say this to open it up. I look at this fan club from the 70s. This was for Kiss. All right, if you figure out the money today, that would be about $22 a year to get stick-on tattoos, a facsimile autograph, a newsletter that was published 4 times during the year. All right, $20 for that. You could have signed up in the 70s for the Bionic Woman, and that's what you get. A black and white photo.
WWF fan club, DT.
There, yeah, exactly.
I got a cassette tape. I got my subscription to WWF magazine. I got a certificate that said I was a WWF fan. And I think I got like a Macho Man headband or something like that. Or no, it was Bret Hart's glasses. I got a pair of Bret Hart's glasses, and I think maybe a poster.
Yeah.
And that was it. And I think I spent $23 a year or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, you know, $50 a year, and you also get to interact with wrestlers that you've never been able to interact with before. I have zero issue with AEW heels. And again, no disrespect for those out there that talk about the women's division. Oh, look, they don't even treat the women with respect, and they're doing this and that. We're in the middle of fucking COVID. Half their roster they wanted to portray on TV cannot even perform in AEW right now. So I love this fan club, but I have a little problem with something, and I know this for a fact. And I'm going to bring it up Wednesday, and I'm very curious to see how it's accepted. But Brandy took her Twitter account down. And she was getting ripped apart the other day about taking money from female fans, but yet they're not utilizing the women's division. They get no real airtime and this and that. And that's a whole different issue. But I saw something today that really got me mad. And it was reported, or Cody was telling everybody that the reason why she took her social media account down was because people were calling her the N-word. Now, I followed all of the press releases for AEW heels. I looked at all the reactions because I wanted to see how many people I know that was going to be ignorant enough to try to compare one thing with another. I wanted to watch all the men who were in withdrawal that now here's a platform that they cannot be part of. And I don't recall anybody, not even once, calling her the N-word. If anybody did it in private messages, use a simple change of a setting. I personally, I hate to say this, I think Cody is full of shit. I don't recall anybody calling Brandy, were they calling her derogatory stuff? Absolutely. I don't recall anybody using the N-word because social media would have been in an outrage and say, look, we totally disagree about AEW heels, but there's no reason to call her that. Everybody would have swarmed and ripped apart anybody who was using that terminology. And I don't believe it. As much as I defend AEW heels and say that the whole idea is an excellent idea and I'm 100% behind it, I don't believe that people were calling her the N-word. I didn't see it once.
That's what I was going to say. Like, look, with as adamant and as vigilant as social media is on canceling people, you're telling me somebody's going to attack Brandy Rhodes, who is starting her own female-based show for fans of female wrestling, getting called the N-word, and there's no proof anywhere? No proof. Not one snapshot, not one screenshot. Nobody saw this but her.
No.
Well,
I don't buy it. I don't buy it. We'll get back to that, but what's your overall feeling on AEW heels? Are you, are you fine with it overall? I mean, does it sound like, that it's wrong for a money grab for $49 a year? I like my overall, as far as the business side of it, if you make it free, you could have 5,000 women all trying to be part of a Zoom chat, whenever there is one. I think keeping the expense.
Because they like to talk a lot, DP.
I just feel, look.
I know. I'm not trying to throw you at the bus, but it's a good hustle for what it is, but it reeks of desperation. It reeks of just another way for AEW to try and make money from something that really shouldn't be in that same scenario. Look, NWA did the same thing with their Patreon, with Carneyland, where they had interactive, like a monthly interaction, which was fine, and that was for $50 a month. So I have no problem with them doing it. I mean, it's obviously much cheaper than what NWA was charging and still charging, but at the same time, it's just, I don't know. It's like, if you want the show to be better, make the show better. If you want more highlighting on women, and I know you said that, well, most of these girls are out with COVID. That's tragic, but at the same time, that's an opportunity for AEW to get other women that aren't on the card, to get other AEW women, or to get other women outside of AEW into the promotion in order to highlight new talent. It shouldn't be a reason to sit there and say, oh, well, we can't just do women's wrestling, so here's a show where we can talk about it. For 50
right,
months,
right. That's what it comes across as. Since we're not profiling women that much on TV, we'll make them feel part of the show still by doing a Zoom call.
Right. I don't know. It is what it is, and it's also an opportunity, if anything, to try to repair Brandy's fragile ego, which I think that she has some ego issues. You can just tell with the way that she handles herself that she's very, very she doesn't handle criticism on any level very well. So I think that her running AEW heels is an opportunity for her to surround herself with people that will pay to see her, that will pay to talk to her, will pay to talk about her. And it's an ego project is what it is. And you know what? That's fine. There will absolutely be people that pay that money and that will be happy to talk and discuss things and discuss women's wrestling with Brandy Rhodes, but not for all of us. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I agree with you. Look, I understand the reasons behind it. For me, it's just another form of a fan club. They had about 150 people Friday take part of it, so it's not a tremendous amount of money that's generated, and that money is paid. That's one shot for the whole year. So it's paid. The interesting thing about it that I think a lot of people didn't think about is, are all the memberships, is it from, August 5th to August 5th, 2021? Or if you sign up, let's say 2 months from now, is your membership for a year after? Or they should have done it where, if you sign up, you get a membership until X date from next year. That's kind of disorganized to have people sign up halfway through the year and then they got a year, because you don't even know if AEW heels will be around a year from now. And if you don't keep up on that, you're 11 months in you get like 20, 30 people to sign up. What happens if you decide, a month later, we're going to ditch AEW Heels? What do? You give people back a portion of, what they signed up for? I personally think they should have done, 150 people is not 900,000. All right. If it was $100 a person, that would be $15,000. So 150 at $49 a pop, I think is $7,500 for the year. Wait, is that right? 100. Yeah, I think that's $50 times 15. 150 people, I think, is $7,500. So it's not a crazy amount of money. That wouldn't even do an indie wrestling event. That's for a whole year. But again, I agree with you about her not handling criticism all that well. And I'm a big supporter of AEW. I'll criticize where needed, but I will tell you, from my eyes, from everything that I've seen, because I purposely looked out to see every website, every podcaster to see who's trying to throw that little dig in on the press releases, I don't recall one person using the N-word. And if it was private message, you block the person, and that's it. She shut the social media account down because she said that she was getting flooded with the N-word. I don't believe it. I don't believe
flooding. Did she actually use the word flooded?
I don't think she used the word flooded, but she was getting hit with a lot of people calling her the N-word.
One person is crazy. Two people is crazy and still yet believable. But when you're talking about a cavalcade of people just rushing out on social media to drop the N-bomb at her,
it didn't happen.
I smell bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And I hate to sit there and say that, but if you have that many people and there's not one iota of proof,
when
it's
somebody
a hard thing to try and call out, but it's true.
When somebody was saying shit about Sonny Kiss, Cody immediately ripped the person back and handed that person his ass. Guy ended up shutting the social media account down. But my point is this. Cody immediately handed that person's ass, handed him his ass, and every person screenshotted it and became a news story 10 minutes later.
Oh, yeah.
If Cody's going to run that quickly to Sonny Kiss, why didn't he do that towards Brandy? And number two, how come nobody screenshotted it and brought? I don't believe it. I hate to say it.
That's a good point, though. How come Cody didn't run to his wife? Dude, that is... Yeah, I'm sorry if somebody called my wife, whatever. And, as a guy, you're the bro code, man. Like the fucking guy code. You got to stand up for your woman.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man.
She's...
Yeah, I defend her and I defend AEW heels, but honestly, I got to call her out on this one. I didn't see not one person do it. Nobody screenshotted it. Thousands of people would have handed those people their ass for saying something like that on social media. I don't think social media
is a toxic dump fire right now, and you throw out people that are doing that. It's not even going to be wrestling fans going after those people. It's going to be other people going after those people. So why wouldn't you expose somebody that's actually saying that and doing that to you?
Yeah, exactly. He did more for Sonny Kiss than he did for his own wife. Doesn't make sense. I don't believe it. I think the reason why the social media account was shut down was because if there is no Twitter account, then there is no place for people to confront Brandy on social media.
Right.
You understand? I know it sounds kind of like simplified, but if Brandy doesn't have a social media account, you're not going to go to the AEW Twitter account to confront Brandy. So that's why I think it was done. There was so much criticism. Let's just remove the platform. So it's almost like, Brandy, you want to speak out, you have to be a woman, and you have to be part of AEW Heels, and there's your opportunity to talk. But you're not going to get that opportunity on social media. That's how it came across to me. But I think if it's not true, I'm not doubting she might have gotten a couple of PMs, and one, using the N-word is one too many. But the idea, it's not like she only had 5,000 followers. You're talking...
But the fact that she's led people to believe that it was a lot of people, or even some people, if it's more than, 3, like even the idea of that is just insane.
Yeah.
Just insane.
Yeah. I agree. Remember when the Young Bucks shut their social media page down?
Oh.
I mean, what was really the criticism there? I mean, they weren't being called the N-word or, ripped like Sonny Kiss or anything, and they shut theirs down.
Well, they shut theirs down because they couldn't handle that people were not immediately jumping for joy over the Dark Order skit.
Right.
That's why. And so in order to teach everybody a lesson, they left Twitter. Matt left a message, or his dad left a message on his Twitter, and they left Twitter for a while. I don't know if they're still gone. I think they're back now. But
yeah,
they also continued to push the Dark Order skit, regardless of how people felt about it, because they knew in their hearts it was right. Jesus.
Yeah. I kind of lost you. Yeah.
Yeah, no. I was just saying just because they felt it was right. That's all. I mean,
and I'll say this too.
It was embarrassing.
I'll play devil's advocate for a minute. I don't use the N-word. I don't say derogatory. The worst thing I do is call people goofs. But if I was someone on social media trying to emotionally attack Brandy by calling her the N-word, and she shuts her social media down, I'm playing devil's advocate here. I'm not trying to provoke or promote anything. But if she shuts her social media account down and I wanted to call her the N-word, my next move, to go on Cody's social media account and call his wife the N-word. People were calling her the N-word to the point that she shuts her social media account down, but none of those people go on Cody's account to do it. I'm telling you, again, I'm supporter of her big time. But again, you would have had droves of people immediately bash anybody saying that. It would have been screenshotted. People would have brought it to Cody's attention. Did you see what this person said about your wife? Right. You would have had everybody, every social justice warrior out there, every person who wants to, virtual signal might be it. They would have used that person calling the N-word to rip them apart and say, see, Brandy, I stuck up for you. Nobody has witness of this. I'm sorry, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Not one person saw this. Not one person screenshotted it. Not one person responded to it. Not one person showed Cody or someone else, look at this disgusting stuff. Because again, one person said it to Sonny Kiss, and it became a major, massive news story. And you mean to tell me when one person says it to Sonny Kiss, it becomes a massive news story? And yet a whole bunch of people said it to Brandy and nobody saw it? I don't buy it. It's just my opinion, man. I'm not saying I'm right, but, just use a little common sense. Makes no sense. Nobody witnessed this, and nobody screenshotted it, and nobody doxed these accounts. Look, everybody, look at what this piece of shit said about Brandy. Let's fucking report him to Twitter. Let's get his account shut down. What, was everybody out at the Fozzy concert? I don't buy it. So, Ben, yes. That guy that played for Ghostbusters 2, Wilhelm von Homburg, yes. He was a wrestler from the 60s. He was also a boxer. He was in Die Hard. Did not know he was a wrestler. He didn't wrestle all that much, but you'd be surprised if you look up wrestling from the 30s to the 60s especially. You had a lot of boxers that ventured into pro wrestling. They probably have more from that era than anywhere else, but if anybody out there wants to read a really cool story about this guy, Google an article called The Hateful Life and Spiteful Death of the Man Who Was it Vigo the Carpathian? I think that's how you pronounce it, or Vigo?
Okay.
Yeah.
Vigo from Ghostbusters?
Yes, Vigo. Look up that article, and it's a really cool story because you get to learn his boxing background, wrestling, and the tragedy. He's been dead, I think, since like 2005 or somewhere around there. I could be wrong on that, but I don't know. Roger Rubio, if we were to rock, we just purchased the XFL, what would be some of our priorities in making the league successful? Do we think startup leagues should compete against giant businesses?
First thing I would do is get rid of that harder hits bullshit. Like the idea that the XFL is going to offer harder hits in the era where concussions are one of the most serious things that happen in football. The last thing you want is a company that's going to promote concussions. I would say first things first is just change the image. You can work on different things that make the XFL superior to the NFL, but try not to have it focused directly on, combat and head-to-head collisions and stuff like that. Second thing I would do is find a network and stick with them. Be that network's football company. And I mean, obviously you can't do it with NBC or CBS or Fox because they're always constantly in cahoots with the NFL. So don't use those companies. Go with, I don't know, who doesn't have football? WGN? Right. So, you know what I mean? Like go with a network that could use you as a brand, as a network branded sports team.
Home of the XFL.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. I like it. I think they could be almost the minor leagues of the XFL. I know The Rock has already done a little Zoom video or cell phone video that he wants to give people the opportunity that they could possibly go to the NFL. So it almost sounds like that it almost sounds like he's trying to create like an NXT for the NFL. Yeah, like it's like a one step below. Like he's not trying to compete with the NFL, but look, you start here, and maybe you can graduate and go to the NFL. So that's what it feels like.
More? Do you think that they're trying to compete more with college football?
Probably, yeah. I mean, put it this way: if you look at what Rock said on that video, and you're really going to use the XFL to give people an opportunity to maybe go to the NFL. One thing that makes total sense is you're not going to have the rules be that much different than the NFL, because how could you tell people, here's your opportunity that maybe one day you can go to the NFL, or maybe some people that never got that opportunity, here's that opportunity. You're going to want to keep it similar. You can have some of the rules change, but you're not like arena football. You never saw arena football basically saying like, this is, people that want to, maybe one day go down. Rules were a lot different. So I think the XFL will be much more like the NFL than the old XFL. There was a lot that was good about the XFL early this year. It really got, but again, that newness factor, and even though I made this prediction, I know a lot of other people did as well. That newness factor was going to wear off in 2 to 3 weeks, and by 3 weeks in, they had lost over half their viewers. So if you're going to have a much lower viewership than maybe what Vince expected for XFL, then you're going to want to portray it more of maybe the minor leagues of the NFL. You're not going to call it that, but
see, the problem is though is that you don't just have college football that falls into that. You also have like arena football. I don't know if you watch arena football. And then you have other things. I think the best thing that the XFL can do is not placate themselves to being a smaller version of an NFL or a ground roots NFL. I think that they need to focus on things that they do better than the NFL, whether it's passing, whether it's, less rules, whatever. They need to do something that sets them apart from the NFL, but doesn't degrade their athletes to the point where you're thinking, oh, that's just a subpar Colin Kaepernick.
Right.
You need stars coming from the XFL that people can sit there and go, oh wow, there's a fantasy matchup if he was ever to go to the NFL.
Right.
You need stars being built in the XFL that can stand on their own and that build up the company as well.
Yeah. By the way, Roberto, I did get your address info. I will ship it out. And your comment before about the Howard Beach stuff. Howard Beach, 1986. Very embarrassing. Absolutely, as far as race relations. I did not live in Howard Beach in 86. But, as far as race relations go, nobody should be using that terminology to anybody. Just to throw that out there. Now, as far as the XFL, it's almost like when you're building a house. You knock a house down, they call it gut it. You gut a house and you want to rebuild it. You might want to rebuild it, in your eyes, nicer than what it was before. It looks like a house, and it's got windows, a doors, a chimney, a backyard, and everything, but maybe you want the house to have a little bit of a unique look. And if it's a really good look, you might see other people start building their houses with a similar look. So, the XFL could use that idea. You want to build a house, but maybe you try to build it a little bit in your vision, how you want it to come across. And the good thing about the XFL is they can experiment a little bit. And, it's not the NFL, so they can tweak a rule here and there. They can adjust something. When something is brand new, there's no reason why they can't change some stuff around. Once you become established, like a professional organization like NFL or Major League Baseball, NHL, it's very hard to change rules. Very hard, especially when you have unions involved. I mean, that's why you got a lot of the mess in a lot of professional sports right now. So, Cassette Classics, yes. Do I have a P.O. Box? It is P.O. Box 140128, Howard Beach, New York. Zip code 11414-0128. Anybody, you could just replay that. If anybody ever wants to send something, that's the P.O. Box address to send it to. Moving on, because I know we got to get out of here soon because we are running a little bit late here, and we got to do the drawing in a little bit for the Chromebook. Sorry again for anybody who came in late. That's why when you show up early, that things like that, it fills up quickly, so all the entries are in. So we'll pick a winner in a couple of minutes. Your best bargains. Booker T recently insinuated on his podcast that Dixie Carter slept with a number of TNA talent. Which TNA wrestlers do you think Dixie slept
Jarrett.
with?
Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah.
Jerry Jarrett.
You think Jerry Jarrett for real?
I don't know. Jeff Jarrett definitely, though. Jeff Jarrett, she was pound down. Yeah. I think they were together.
I could swear it was either Scott Hall or Kevin Nash. Probably Kevin Nash. I could swear Kevin Nash on a podcast a while ago teased also that Dixie Carter slept with a bunch of people in TNA. I always, and I have no proof of this, I'm not making accusations as well, but I always thought that she might have slept with Scott Hall. I always thought she may have slept with AJ Styles, even though AJ Styles is very committed to his family.
AJ, I think, was clear at that. I don't think AJ ever got that rub. Kurt Angle, I could see the Hawk says Kurt Angle. I believe Kurt Angle.
Hogan?
Absolutely.
Hulk Hogan?
Yeah, I mean, that was fucking his best friend's wife, so why not fuck the promoter and his boss, too? Yeah, I could see Hogan sleeping with Dixie.
Bubba the Love Sponge?
I could see Eric Bischoff sleeping with Dixie, I mean, yeah, Bubba the Love Sponge.
You think Salinas was watching some of this? I'm not kidding when I say this. You think he's a little into that?
Dudes have some kinks. Girls have some kinks. It could be. It could be. I don't know. Here's one. R-Truth.
Wow. Interesting. Interesting.
I mean, he's an older guy. People seem to think that he's always a younger guy. But when Dixie was in there and when he was in there, they're hovering the same age, same group, you know?
Chris Sabin. There's a lot of people over the years that, you think anybody ever got a little extra push because they were having some relations with Dixie? I mean, look, we have no proof of any of this. We're just fantasizing for the most part right now. I don't want anybody to think, we're not pointing fingers, but, it makes you wonder. And Booker T, to make a claim like that, it's a pretty big deal. Bully Ray?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, look, I look at it like this. Was he going to cheat on Velvet Sky with Dixie?
Well, he wasn't with her at the beginning. He could have slept with her. Steiner is another one. There's so many people when you think about it. My God.
I can see Steiner do it. Yeah.
If you had the opportunity, would you have slept with her? Nobody knows?
2000. No, she was cute. She was cute in the beginning.
I still remember her wearing that AC/DC shirt.
Yeah, she was cute with the AC/DC shirt on back in, what was that, 2003, 2004?
Isn't it weird that we remember that?
Oh, it was a good article. It was, it was one of the better articles that came out of PWI. And I think that one of the interesting things about that article was not only was it a good article, but it was one of the first times that anybody actually got a chance to see who Dixie Carter was. Because before that, all your Google images, searching and everything, your dog pile, whatever the hell you were looking through, kept bringing up the girl from Designing Women. And everybody was like, ugh, the hell is the lady from Designing Women doing in wrestling, But, yeah, no, she was all right. She had the MILF factor at the beginning, absolutely.
Let me ask you this. If you had the opportunity when it was on the air, would you have slept with all of the women from Designing Women? Including that Dixie Carter?
No, I'm good.
That one girl, what was her name? The Southern girl. There was one girl that had like a really Southern accent. She had like curly hair. I don't remember her name. Someone in the chat is going to remember.
Mary Jo.
That might have been her. She had like brown curly hair. I always thought she was really attractive. Annie Potts. Yeah, I think it was Annie Potts. Annie Potts. Delta Burke, no. Delta Burke, I never liked her.
Yeah, Mary Jo. That's what her name was.
No. It's Annie Potts. Definitely Annie Potts.
Oh, yeah, that's her character name was Mary Jo.
Oh, is it the same person? Okay, Annie Potts, yeah. That would be her. She was very small, like in size, and she had like the curly, frizzy hair. Believe it or not, don't ask me why, but when it first came out, that show, I think for about a year, I actually watched it every single week. I don't know why.
I have some weird shows that I watch too. I used to watch the Golden Girls, maybe not as religiously as like Joe or John did, but yeah, I watch weird things like Will and Grace. Do you remember that show?
Yeah, sure.
I used to watch all of those too. I shouldn't have. There was no reason for me to, but it was funny. It amused me sometimes.
Let me ask you this: you think Designing Women, that TV show with those characters, if it debuted in 2020? You think everybody would be calling them Karens online?
No, they'd probably be looked at as bold, but at the same time, I don't know. It really depends on who they're marketing it to. I think that they would change up the show a lot. I think that there would be a lot more minorities added into the show in order to be a little bit more up to date with the way things are. But I mean, the idea of the show, I could see it being done today. Absolutely.
What do you think of, they're bringing Beavis and Butthead back for 2 years. It's obviously going to reflect 2020. But now I also read that they're bringing back some rendition of Ren and Stimpy. Do you think that we're starting to go back to like the mid-90s where it's, you are going to offend some people on TV and maybe go a little bit over the top, kind of like the original South Park?
I would like to believe that. I would like to believe that people can say what they want and then just deal with it later, as opposed to being censored before they can say anything, which is unfortunately one of the drawbacks of the way things have turned out this year. Yeah. But I don't know, because the biggest stranglehold on all this isn't the fact that people want to say what they want to say. the biggest stranglehold is people that will pay you money in order to be on these platforms will pull their money as soon as they feel like you've crossed the line.
Right.
So it's that fear that keeps WWE in check. It's that fear that keeps a lot of comedy safe. It's why Comedy Central is nowhere near as funny as it was 10 years ago,
right,
or 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It's unfortunately the corporations have a stranglehold on everything from entertainment to freedom of speech.
Right.
And it's because of this. It's because of the money that they have that we need. It dictates what kind of humor and comedy and explosiveness that you'll get out of shows and characters and everything else like that. So I don't know. Beavis and Butthead in 2021, Ren and Stimpy in 2021, is it going to be the same? Is it going to be even close to the same? I'm thinking no.
You know why I think it's brilliant? It's kind of messed up, but I don't think anybody's thought of it like this, and I think every single person watching this will agree with me on this. I think it's brilliant to do it with Beavis and Butthead and Ren and Stimpy. It's because you're doing cartoons. You're not using actual people. So you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about Hollywood banning an actor because they're going over the top on a TV show. You might get mad at the creators of the cartoons, but these are writers that you're never going to interact with in Hollywood. So it's not like you have an individual actor who's on a TV show and does some outrageous stuff like what happened with Roseanne. What are you going to do? Banish Beavis and Butthead from Hollywood? They're not real people. So it seems like they're going in the cartoon route because you could be over the top and insult people. What are you going to do? Ban a cartoon? They're not human beings. They're not getting a paycheck. So if you ban the writer, okay, you ban the writer. But the writer's not going to appear in Hollywood, not doing TV shows. They're not, their doors are not knocking to do movies and stuff. If they write just cartoons, there's no actors or actresses. There's no Beavis social media, Twitter account that you're going to rip apart Beavis and try to sue. It's a fucking fictitious character. So I think doing it with cartoons to start, I think is brilliant. I love it. There's nobody to go after other than the writers. So I hope that answered, Kyle, your question about 90s and 2000s TV. That was a couple of examples. Which show do you think is better? It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia or Curb Your Enthusiasm?
It's Always Sunny. By miles.
Okay. Wow. All right. I'll go with that. When did we start using Discord? About 2 years ago?
Yeah, I opened up the Discord about 2 years ago. We put it in practice probably early this year. Maybe late last year.
Yeah. Yeah, it's still a lot of work in progress. Being able to use that Craig program is very important. This way it allows everybody to do their shows whenever they want without having anyone else to rely on. And the Discord, it's always a secondary outlet to do content where needed. We were going to do Discord today, audio only, but, with all due respect, everybody but two people showed up on YouTube. So, and we were doing video anyway. But, one thing, Discord will always be an available option for everybody out there. Some shows may change, but not how you access them, especially on Patreon. So, why did our Reddit page get abandoned in 2018? I think it was just nobody used it.
I thought somebody else was running our Reddit page because I never actually had a partner. So
okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, I honestly, I pushed it and nobody really was ever using it. I'd go over there and there might be 2 or 3 people using it, so it just never really caught on. I mean, there's no reason why it can't come back later on, but it never really caught on with everybody across the board. So, what's your opinion on Brian Last, that co-host with Cornette?
Yeah, he seems like a good guy. He's got a good head on his shoulders. I think a lot of the strengths from the Cornette show rely on Brian Last, and I don't think he gets the recognition that he deserves because Jim Cornette is a fiery person, whether you agree or disagree with the guy regardless. It's Brian Last that kind of controls and steers the show. It's Brian Last that feeds Jim Cornette the right things to say, or he says the right things in order to feed Cornette. He knows how to get Cornette out of his shell. Not that Cornette is in his shell at all times, but Brian Last is a good puppeteer. And I don't mean that in an insulting and derogatory way towards Jim.
He's a
but
catalyst.
he understands nuances. Yeah, he understands the little things that he has to do in order to produce a great show. I have nothing but respect for Brian Last. You know, the guy is very dedicated to his craft, and you can see, and it helps that he's working with somebody as explosive as Jim Cornette, but you could tell that he cares about everything that goes on. And even when he disagrees with Jim, he doesn't just come in there and say, no, I disagree. Like, Brian Last arms himself when he has to disagree with Jim Cornette. And I've seen that a couple times, where he arms himself with a lot of different debates and conversation points in order to go back and forth with Jim Cornette, which I imagine cannot be easy on any level to do. So he gets a lot of respect from me.
Okay. I think he's all right. I think Brian Last is absolutely necessary for Cornette, because without him, I think Cornette would just go on there and like, all right, what are we going to talk about today? You know, like, Brian Last is the catalyst that actually gets, like, when you see a lot of topics posted on YouTube, Cornette speaks on this, Cornette speaks on that. This Brian Last is the one that is pulling it out of Cornette. Like, if Brian Last does not pull it out of Cornette, 9 times out of 10, Cornette is not going to just give it. The only, if I have to give it any criticism on Brian Last, I think sometimes he caves in a little too quickly.
I think he cave. Look, I understand that too. He doesn't cave in quickly. What it is he caves in so they can move on to the next topic.
Right.
That's
true.
It's a trick that I've used for years.
Yeah, I got to start using that more. That's my mistake, easily.
Interviewers do this all the time. They cave in and they move on to the next topic because it's not the hill that they want to die on, and it's not the sound clip that they want. So as a smart interviewer or as a smart co-host, you cave in on certain things and just push it along, or you segue, or you move the topic along so you can get to different other aspects of the show that you want to cover in the current episode. So no, Brian Last, I kind of disagree with you. He doesn't cave in. It's strategic. It's
The more I hear you say that, I kind of changed my view on. You actually changed my view. No bullshit. And I'm not agreeing with you, so we can move on to the next topic. No, that actually does make a lot of sense, because when people, you know, that is really brilliant, because when people click on the YouTube clip, they want to hear what Jim Cornette has to say, not what Brian Last has to say.
Right.
So, yeah, okay. I'll go with that.
Brian understands, and I'm sure Brian, in his own mind, I don't know if he's ever said it openly or whatever, but he has to know. It's the same way that I say things like that too, but I'm not the funny one. Brian Last isn't the funny one. People aren't there to see Brian Last. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's a lot of people that love Brian Last, but Brian Last understands who has the name value between him and Jim Cornette.
Right.
It's when you start losing that line. It's when podcasters or broadcasters start getting egos and they need to be recognized as much as the star of the show.
Right.
That's when everything starts to break down.
Right.
That's when things start to break down. So in this scenario, Brian Last is doing the smart thing, and he just allows the conversation to continue and go on. And yeah, I think he's very aware of the necessity that he is for that show.
Yeah. Andrew, I like that. He's the Alvarez for Meltzer, and I like Cassettes. He's the Opie for Cornette.
Yeah.
Very
good.
Okay, I'll go with that. Conrad, too. Conrad, though, I think Conrad, to be honest, and you know I'm a supporter of Conrad, I defend him a lot. I think Conrad sometimes thinks he's on the equal level of some of the people he's doing shows with, and I think sometimes Conrad needs to step back a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah. Sure. What do you like? Oh, what's your favorite flavors of Slurpees and ices, like Italian ices and stuff like that? What's your favorite flavors?
Well, Italian ices, you got to go with the classic lemon. And as far as like the slushies and Slurpees, I'm a big fan of like the Coke, or mixing half the Coke with the cherry, making my own cherry Coke slushie.
Okay.
It's good.
Love Coke Slurpees. I could go with a cherry, but not cherry Coke, but just cherry. Italian ices, chocolate, lemon, spumoni. Spumoni's probably my all-time favorite.
I've never had a Spumoni.
I got to send you. You know what? I haven't been on Gold Belly in a while. I got to hook you up with a Gold Belly, but some Spumoni and some other things.
Drive up there now.
Yeah. You want to know something? Yesterday when we were doing a show, somebody had asked me if I had ever done a cheat meal on the keto diet, because I've been on keto now for about 16 months, and a cheat meal is you can treat yourself one meal once in a while and just eat whatever you want. And I haven't cheated on this, but the only time in the last 16 months that I ever eaten something that's not, good for this diet, Father's Day. I bought my father a giant tub of Spumoni ice cream, Italian ice, Spumoni Italian ice. There's a Italian ice place by my house, and my father loves Spumoni. So I went there and I bought a whole tub for like $70. And we put it in my freezer where my apartment is, parents' house in Rockaway.
Yeah.
I put it in my freezer because I don't have anything in the freezer there because I only stay there one day a week, so I really don't keep food there. It'll spoil. So that night, that week of Father's Day, when I stood there that Tuesday night, I went into the refrigerator to find nothing. I opened the freezer and I see this big tub of Spumoni. So I was like, should I? And I grabbed the tablespoon and I just ate about 4 big spoonfuls of it. I got so lightheaded after because my body had not seen sugar in about 14 months. But I was like, man, it was worth it. And it didn't fuck up my diet. So that's the only time I cheated. Why is the term bodega not used outside of New York? I don't know. I think people, for some reason outside of New York, think the term bodega is racist. You think of The Simpsons with that guy that owned the Quickie Mark. They thought that was racist because of, he was Indian and 7-Elevens. So I just think that people just view it as a racist term, even though it's not meant for that. Bodega really is just the type of setup in a store. A bodega, you walk in, you got lottery tickets, you got lotto, cigarettes, beer. Maybe back in the day, you had a video game or two in the back. You sell late at night, maybe 2 types of heroes. That's pretty much what a bodega is, in lots of newspapers. I think that's the only reason why. So, and we talked earlier about Fozzy, doing the concert, North Dakota. We have to get back to normalcy, but we have to do it responsibly. All those people not wearing masks, I think there's kind of stupid. Hopefully we don't see any outbreak over there because of it. But, like you said earlier about going out to eat, we got to start getting back to normalcy. Be careful about it and take the right precautions, but there's no reason why people should be really making themselves mental and broke. You gotta, sooner or later. That's why with the school, people are making this so political about kids going back to school. It's not just kids going back to school. Parents can't afford to stay home for months and months and months. And if your kid cannot go back to his or her school, the parents may be forced to stay home, and maybe they can't afford a babysitter or and plus you don't know what a babysitter has been. There's a lot more than just kids in school. There's people that have to go back to work. There's never going to be in the country where you can't get the flu or you can't catch this or measles or pneumonia or chicken pox. There's always going to be risk out there. You just got to be careful. So, people, that's why, like I say, I don't ever talk about anybody specifically. I know some people out there get offended. They think I'm talking about them when I'm not, but I say in general. If people out there don't have money right now and you just sit on social media all day long and you don't go out and find some type of job to get some money, you deserve to cry and complain that you have no money. You aren't doing anything about it. If you're upset that you're not in a relationship, and you just sit on social media all day long, you got to get out and do things. just got to be careful about it. There's nobody, something my father used to always say to me, there's nobody to blame but yourself. And me too. If I complain about certain things and, I realize that I'm not getting up and doing it, the only person I can blame is myself. I can't blame COVID. I can't blame Trump. I can't blame, what's going on. It's me. So, Adam DeMoy, is Vince getting the WWE in a position to financially sell to Disney or NBC Universal? If so, who do you prefer out of the two companies, Mish? Do you think Vince might sell WWE? And if so, do you think he's going to sell it to NBC Universal or Disney?
I don't think Vince will sell. I think when Vince passes, Stephanie might sell.
Okay.
I don't think Vince will sell.
I don't think so either. Out of the two, I'd rather see NBC Universal get it and not Disney.
Sure. Right. Of course.
Yeah. So, I agree with you, though. I don't think, he may sell a portion of WWE, but I think when everything is said and done, he'll always...
Well, if you're talking about like WWE Studios or WWE Films or whatever, I could see that being sold off at a point. How much money is it really bringing in versus the rest of the company? I'm not sure. They have a lot of other ventures in WWE that they could sell. That is different. But are they going to sell the actual wrestling product, the name brand product? I just don't see Vince doing that. I just don't see him doing that.
Yeah, especially right now.
Selling to somebody like Vince would be an admittance of failure. And I just can't see him living out his twilight years with such a big thing on his shoulders. For a guy that never went to sleep, for a guy that was the first one there and the last one to leave, for a guy that literally has blood, sweat, and tears in the foundation of his company, I can't see him giving it all up before he passes. I just can't.
Yeah. And
too much of an ego.
Yeah. And we don't know how many years he has left.
Right,
I think a lot of people think, they're a little surprised that he lived this long and he still has all his faculties, man. But then again, his mom, she's 100. His mom's 100.
Yeah, I know.
Crazy. Vince Sr. was taken, early, but his mom lived to be 100. His family's got some pretty good genes, man. So, Paul Bielowski, he thinks Cedric Alexander, Dana Brooke, and Ricochet could be good members of Retribution. Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. But again, Dana Brooke, like she doesn't have the repertoire, I think, to really like have somebody. This kind of almost feels like Invasion Angle 2001 with just low budget people. And I think it wouldn't, I have a feeling Survivor Series, last year was Raw versus SmackDown versus NXT. I think this year, Survivor Series might be Raw and SmackDown versus NXT versus Retribution. I have a feeling because Raw and SmackDown will represent Stephanie, NXT will represent Triple H, Retribution will represent Shane McMahon. That's what I think. Could be wrong, just brainstorming. Two more. Well, actually, three more, and then we'll spin the wheel and we'll get out of here. Actually, you want to spin the wheel now?
Yeah, let's go for the wheel.
Yeah, let's go for the wheel. I was going to do it back here, and I am dressed. Let me see if they could get this all on camera. Let me see if they could see this. Oh, it's kind of cut off. Okay, maybe. The desk, it's kind of hard to do it over here. Shit. Maybe if I leave it on this. Yeah, you know what? As long as you see the top. I actually was not prepared to. Maybe I could do it on my lap. Nah, that's not good. You know what? Fuck it. We'll just do this back here.
All right.
Yeah, we'll just do this back here. And whoever it lands on, you will get the Chromebook 3. I say this jokingly. Hopefully it's somebody in the United States, so the shipping cost could be down a little bit. And please, no UPS store addresses. I sent Roger. No, it wasn't Roger's fault, but I sent Roger Rubio that mixer, the DJ mixer that I offered up, and it ends up he had me ship it to a UPS store in a Walmart in Canada. It got delivered there. I put down it was a gift and it wasn't worth anything, so you wouldn't get hit with tariffs. He goes to Walmart to pick it up and they can't find it. So not only did I ship it for like $70 to Canada, but they couldn't find it. I can't even really put in a claim for it. So, all right, so here we go. I'm going to spin the wheel. Whoever it lands on is going to get the brand new Chromebook 3. I hope you use it. You could do whatever you want with it if you want, but I hope somebody that wins it could really use it because, like I said, on Amazon, it's $200. It's brand new. And I just hate to, I want to see it go to a good home that could actually use it. So good luck, everybody. Let's just spin it. Let's see who gets it. Here we go. Gotta make the face work. Here we go. First time using it. Larry got it. I think that's Larry Rovers got it. So Larry Rovers. Oh, look, and Tommy actually voted for Larry. Look, here you go.
Nice.
There you go.
Congratulations,
you
Larry.
Could you see it? Let me see if you could see it. No, you can't. Let me go back a little. There you go. Larry got it. It landed on red. So Larry Rovers PM me. And I know Larry could really use it because he talked about it. So yeah, congrats to Larry. He got it, fair enough. I was going to use like other programs, online stuff, but I figured, we got the wheel. Why not use it? So congrats to Larry. He gets it. So
we'll make a deal.
Yeah, let's finish up. Jeffrey Collins, with COVID-19 still high in the U.S., should we go back into stay-at-home order as a whole nation? We kind of talked about that before. Some areas, there's virtually no cases. We got to get back to normal. We got to get people at work. We got to get people at school. We got to get revenue in this country. The more people, and you know what? I kind of am in favor of stopping the pandemic unemployment because some people, by getting $600 a week, are getting paid more to sit at home than go out and get a job. When you cut off the money supply, that's where people get desperate and actually get off their ass and start working. There's too many people sitting on their asses on social media all day long, and they're getting some type of income. You take away the unemployment or you give them a deadline, you got to start preparing yourself like, look, I got to get off I don't expect anybody really to want to work a couple of months ago when the pandemic was still really bad, but now you got to get to a point like, all right, I got to make a decision. Do I sit at home and collect nothing, or do I go out and get a fucking job? And the unemployment definitely makes people lazier. So I have no problem with it extending a little bit longer, but people have to know that once this is up, you're on your own. Right. That's how I look at it. I don't know if you feel the same way.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. All right. David Peralta. Last weekend was the 25th anniversary of Raekwon's Only Built for Cuban Links. I did not like any songs from that album. I know his history. I think it was with Wu-Tang Clan. I actually listened back and checked out the album. I was never really into his work at that time. I do know they're coming out with an instrumental version of his work. I know that they're going to be doing that. His YouTube page kind of pissed me off because they have a lot of music on YouTube, and basically they were getting I definitely think the album is top notch, without a doubt. I just never got into his early music. But his YouTube page, like, they were teasing to put other songs on YouTube, and they were basically like, if you want to see this song on YouTube, everybody donate $5, and I don't know. With YouTube, you could get ad revenue and other stuff, but I was just, there was a lot of hip hop that I was into back in the early to mid 90s, but it took me a while. I mean, Wu-Tang I fucking loved, But his solo work, I didn't get into early on. But he is heralded. That is one of the top albums. You go do a little wiki search and, revisit some of the numbers. It did pretty damn good. So one last thing from David, and then we got Brian, and then we're going to get out of here. David says, and I'm going to read this. We usually don't get into long stuff, but it is a rant that's definitely worth bringing up because I think some people could relate. Why is it finding a place to live so expensive? Every time he has to be stuck in New York City, he feels worthless because the city cannot fix itself. All he wants is to start over and live a new life instead of living with his parents. It's humiliating at times to see everyone at his age get a new home while he's still living in the Bronx with his mom. He always despises people saying that it's okay to live with your parents. It's okay to quit while he's ahead. He always thought by going to school and going to college, it would help him learn to get a good job with a good amount of pay to start his own life. Now he wonders what's the point of living if he can't earn what he wants. He wishes humanity would just kill each other off, since all they want to do is argue with each other instead of working together and focus on the real problem, which is the government taking away everything we work hard for. Jesse Ventura once said that the biggest enemies in our country are Democrats and Republicans. And after seeing what's going on in the news, it makes all perfect sense. That's why he'll never vote for any political parties. He should consider running away, since he'll never get his dreams fulfilled. And David, I'll say this to you. A lot of areas are becoming impossible to live on. As soon as my parents, and hopefully it's not for a very long time, I've said this before, I want to get out of New York as quickly as possible. People just raise taxes, raise expenses, instead of trying to figure out a way to pay down debt. I ordered some food delivery today for lunch from a ravioli store in my neighborhood. I haven't ordered from them in about 6 months, and I noticed all their entrees are all $5 more each. So when people out there think that we're not going to pay the ultimate price from COVID, everybody's raising their prices. Right. Property taxes have gone up. When you say Democrats...
Houses have gone down. Because I've been taking a look at, looking at houses, how much they're priced, and those are going down. The housing bubble's kind of doing the opposite. So it's kind of wild to hear that mortgages and everything are up. But
no. House values are going down, and rent is going down because people are getting very desperate to get tenants, and tenants that can afford to pay rent right now. But as far as like in New York, property taxes have gone up. In my neighborhood, property taxes have gone up, and in fact, and New York is not given. You keep seeing like, oh, nobody's going to get evicted, and oh, this is postponed, this and that. They have not given any property owners any credit for the past bunch of months. Like, they've raised property taxes. Like, if you expected New York or Philly or anyone else to say to homeowners, look, we're going to give you 20% off your property tax for this year because of what's going on with COVID, they have not given anybody a discount. They've raised property taxes. When Jesse Ventura says that Democrats and Republicans are the problem, I think the biggest problem starts with school. You have a lot of radical professors in almost all of the colleges instilling in people's brains, a certain view of our country. And then people go out in the real world and they realize that everything that professors told them the world is, it's not. Right. And, there's too much of this, you fall and you're comforted by a pillow and this, unfortunately, what you are taught in the schools is not real life. And you see Democrats, they pander to blacks every 4 years. You see on the Republicans, they pander to certain groups talking about unemployment. It's just the way it is. I don't see anything wrong with anybody living with their parents still, especially because of the economic times, and it is a pride factor, but you cannot give up. You cannot, you just have to figure out ways to make things work. Because I guarantee you, your parents 20, 30, 40 years ago did not have it, as a piece of cake. I always brought up my father working 3 jobs You know, there weren't jobs that my father enjoyed to do. My father turned chicken shit into chicken salad. You gotta hustle and do whatever you can to make things work right now. And hopefully, as time goes by, other opportunities open up. You can't just sit back and just be frustrated. If you just sit there and be frustrated, you'll never find anything. You'll just sink lower and lower into a depression. And
ADT, I hate to cut it short, but I gotta go, man.
yeah, I'll let you go. Yeah, I'll finish it up.
Right.
There's only like 5 minutes left. I'll let you go. All right.
Much left, everyone. Thank you, guys.
All right, Mish. Later. Yeah, everybody. Mish has company, so he was very gracious enough to be here for almost 2.5 hours. We went longer than we expected. But just to finish up what I was saying, you know, I always bring up social media because to me, social media is the number one problem right now. You know, you could sit on Twitter all day long and have people make you feel good, you know, but at the end of the day, it does not pay the bills. It does not get you laid. It does not get you a relationship. It doesn't get you a job. All it does is it just fills an emotional high. And unfortunately, you could see with your own eyes. And look, I don't mean to upset anybody here on Patreon, but let's be honest. You don't have to publicly say it, but let's be honest. There's quite a few of you out there that will not call out certain people doing this because you do it yourself. I have done it in the past. And I know some people out there do have in their hearts, and this is a good thing, do have a lot of sympathy for people out there who are, you know, who have let themselves go for the sake of getting likes and conversations on social media. But the balance is out of whack. It is totally out of whack. You know, I cannot accept people who are able-bodied to sit on social media all day long, 7 days a week, 18 hours a day, and then cry poverty. You know, there's nothing wrong with going on social media and mingling and doing game night on Saturday night or doing shows or anything like whatever you do that makes you happy. There's got to be a good balance. And David, right now, unfortunately, you know, with what's going on in this world, a lot of people cannot have the ideal work that they want. You have to just compromise right now. I see people in the office world, the entertainment world, that's really just the two areas, you know, blue collar, white collar jobs, construction. I see people out there who are out of work and, you know, for months and months and months and complain, but they won't look outside of that type of work. Look, you worked in construction before and there are no construction jobs, then you might have to consider working in a grocery store. If you worked in an office environment and there are no office jobs right now, you might have to settle for being a cashier. If you worked in the entertainment world and there's no entertainment jobs out there, you might have to work for UPS for a little while, or Domino's, or work in a gas station. And unfortunately, there are too many people out there that won't go out of their element. So you gotta compromise. And hopefully, David, later on, and this goes for everyone out there, you find ultimately something that is in your zone. My insurance business right now is terrible. I've had a lot of customers cancel. I've had 7 customers pass away due to COVID-related illness. I've had customers who had 2 cars before drop it down to 1 car. I've had people who had full coverage drop down the liability. I've paid thousands of dollars back in commission that I made earlier in the year that I had to pay back because people lowered or canceled their insurance. And it's struggling right now. Sitting on Twitter or sitting on a podcast and complaining about it is not going to do nothing for me. So I got to find other ways of getting income to come in. And man, I'm under the pressure too. You know, my fiance, we got engaged last year. We want to get married. We want to start our life together. And there's so many obstacles right now. Do I sit on Twitter? and have everybody show sympathy for me, or do I try to work around it and make it work? So again, social media is the number one problem right now in this world, because people will trade in actually doing it, and for some people out there, they'll lie about it. And again, I don't believe half the things I read on social media. I see a lot of claims, a lot of woe is me, a lot of look at me stuff. And, you know, there's only so many times you could cry wolf. And you realize that some people out there they'll just, let me just get some social media attention to me. I feel better, gets me through the day. And then meanwhile, another day goes by, another week goes by, another month goes by, another year goes by. And that's time you'll never get back. So you got to go out there and take whatever you can take. It may not be the most ideal, you know, work, but it's work, it's opportunity, and maybe that opens up to something else. That's the best way I could give you my advice. I know you want your own life, but, you know, unfortunately right now, you know, it's impossible for a lot of people. It's not just one person, you know. But again, if you go on social media and you just complain all day long, I got no money, I got no job, I don't know when I'm going to go back to work. What do you mean you're not going to go? You don't know when you're going to go back to work? If your job that hasn't hired you, you know, like my fiance, her job has been closed for 5 months. She's looking for other work. She's not going to sit on social media for the rest of the year, keep complaining about how her alarm company is not open. Gets to a point where you got to do something about it. And unfortunately, there's too many people out there that look for just the emotional comfort through social media than actually going out and doing it. And again, you know, with all due respect, there's a lot of you out there that will do the same thing because it is attractive. Having people, you know, show attention to you is a nice thing. Absolutely. But you have to have the right balance. So, David, I wish you nothing but the best. Everybody out there wish you nothing but the best. Stay strong and just keep things in a nice balance. You know, there's nothing wrong with having dessert as long as you have your dinner also. There's nothing wrong with playing a little bit after school as long as you do your homework first. There's nothing wrong with going out and having fun with your friends as long as you do your responsibility at home first. There's got to be a balance. You can't play, and then not do the work. Got to make amends. And, you know, we'll get through this. You know, true friends will be out there to support you. They may not tell you in a tweet every day, but they're out there looking out for you. But, you know, just can't fall into that trap because a lot of people have fallen into that trap. And again, you know, there's no excuse for it. There's no excuse. It's a temptation, man. And what's sad about it is Facebook and Twitter especially, they know that people are emotionally dependent on social media. Emotionally dependent. I want to feel that I'm important. Oh, let me write something that gets all the attention my way. And when that wears off, oh, pray for me about this. And when that wears off, oh, bring this up. Then that wears off. Oh, let me do this. And that wears off. And it's an addiction. You got to keep a balance. Keep a balance. You can enjoy everything and still have responsibility. Shit, Larry, if I could get paid well and I have to clean some fucking toilets, I'll wear gloves. I'll do whatever I got to do. Seriously. I know a pride factor is involved, but work is work and money is money. Seriously. When I delivered groceries earlier this year, it was not fun walking up 5-6 flights of stairs with a case of water, you know, because an old lady just, you know, she likes bottled water and she wants a case of water. Go fucking buy. There was 1 or 2 times that I wanted to go on Amazon and just order Amazon Fresh and have part of the order delivered to somebody's house. But the problem is, even with my father's store, somebody places an order, they want it delivered the same day, not the next day. But, you know, it was money. You know, taxes was not fun. When somebody comes in with a stack of papers like this because they own property and they have bank accounts and interest and expenses and, you know, taxes and deductions and medical, you know, it sucked. There were times I would spend 2-3 hours on one person. And I calculate, and then I get an error message at the end. I'm like, shit, now I got to do this stuff all over again. Do I complain on social media, or do I just suck it up and just do the work, and that's it? And Larry, I'm not saying you're complaining. Be thankful for any work that you can do. Tommy worked in a grocery store for 28 years. There ain't no job out there you should be ashamed of. Zero. What you should be ashamed of is if you still have too good of these and a good able-bodied, and you decide that because your office job is no longer available, that you're just going to sit home and sulk about it and complain on social media the entire year instead of going to try to find another job. You know? I mean, there's nothing in this world that is stopping anybody from working. There are things you could do at home, you know, depending on your abilities. If you could do, you know, worksheets and Excel and stuff like that, there's jobs you could just work from your house. But there is no excuse. I don't accept people, you know, for a month or two, I get it. But when you get 3, 4, 5, 6 months, a year, and you're complaining about being out of work, and then when somebody says to you, like, you know, well, how come you haven't looked for a job in another field or this and that, and then they get angry with you? You know, there was a girl that lives in my neighborhood. I'm part of the Howard Beach, you know, Facebook group. And there was a girl that was complaining about, you know, her not having a job for about 4 or 5 months, and then the pandemic unemployment was ending last week. That $600 was going away. And she's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I got to pay my rent. I got utility bills. I got to feed my kids, this and that. And somebody just wrote back and said, have you looked for another job? Because there's a bunch of places in Howard Beach hiring. And she cursed this person out. Don't fucking tell me what I should and shouldn't do. How dare you pry? And people were like, all this person was saying is, your job isn't bringing you back right now. What's stopping you from finding something else? She had no answer to it. There's a lot of people out there, when you challenge them, they reply with anger. And then what happens? You back off. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to pry. And then, you know, you realize that, why am I backing off? You know, you put your personal stuff out there, then you should be able to accept questions. See, like Seth Rollins? I saw some reports that Seth Rollins was ripping some fans because they were getting a little personal, asking about the pregnancy. And when I saw the video, my thought was, her pregnancy was right out there in a storyline. And if Seth Rollins doesn't want to talk about the pregnancy, you know, you just downplay it like, oh, Becky's doing fine, thank you for asking, and you move on. Instead, Seth Rollins got offended by it. You're a public figure. Everything about your personal life is out there. You have to expect people to ask that, especially when the Bellas just gave birth, and the Bellas, everything about their situation has been public. So Seth Rollins should understand that, you know, the same thing is going to happen to him as well. But anyway, enough of that. Finally, and then we're going to get out of here, Brian, the mayor of Dinosaur Island Landry. I like this. This is rapid fire, but it's kind of the reverse rapid fire. Basically, he gives choices of two things, and you, instead of choosing your preference, you choose the one you want to see go away, the one you don't like. So let's get through these quickly. The what chant, or do you deserve it chant? Which one would I want to go away? Honestly, I still like the what chant, because fans usually chant what when someone's promo is not good and they troll them. Notice how some wrestlers would never get the what chants. People never took notice of that. When someone is really entertaining, you know, some heels got it anyway, but you did a good promo and you were likable in what you do, whether heel or babyface, you wouldn't get hit with that. So I like when fans challenge it. Did you deserve it? Some people really do deserve it, but that has really been spread thin over the last bunch of years. Longevity doesn't equal deserving, in my opinion. Anonymous Raw General Manager or Stone Cold Heel Run. When Steve Austin beat up Jim Ross bloodied, if you have never seen the attack that they did on Lita, it was at Austin and Triple H with the Hardys that time, that just made Steve Austin just so much of a heel. I think some people out there have never seen that part, but when he went off on Jim Ross, especially the stuff with Lita, oh my God. I thought that was Steve Austin heel turn overall was not all that spectacular, but the Anonymous Raw General Manager I never liked. Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, if I were to get rid of any of the three, I probably would get rid of Instagram. Instagram is nice for photos, but I could put photos on Facebook and I could put photos on Twitter. Instagram I find the least appealing, even though on my personal Facebook page I've only posted maybe 3 times over the last year, to be honest with you. Jane Fonda or Alyssa Milano or Barbra Streisand. If I could eliminate one of the three, probably Barbra Streisand. Alyssa Milano is wacky and she's a little bit over the top with her stuff, but there's a lot of people like that today, and I just kind of like brush it off. Barbra Streisand, I just, she's, to me, that's like the ultimate Karen, even though she used to sing brilliantly. Enough is Enough is one of my favorite songs that she ever did. That was an awesome song. Tucker Carlson or Rush Limbaugh or Bill O'Reilly. Out of the three, I probably would get rid of Tucker. Although I like some of Tucker's rants, sometimes he rants on stuff simply to rant. I can't think of any examples offhand. Bill O'Reilly I used to like a lot. Rush is very, very much on the right, but Rush he makes the most sense out of the three. Tucker sometimes rubbed me the wrong way, to be honest with you. Ghostbusters or Jaws 4. Ghostbusters 2 or Jaws 4, Superman 4 or Rocky 5. Jaws 4. Ghostbusters 2 is a flop. Superman 4 I didn't like. Rocky 5 was meh, but Jaws 4 I just felt like once you got Jaws 3 in 3D, to me, pun intended, that's when you knew you jumped the shark. I just thought it's the last second, but I never liked Jaws 4. Rocky 5 was corny too, but I don't know. I could tolerate Rocky 5, to be honest with you. Ghostbusters 2 was definitely a money grab. I didn't like it, but Jaws 4, if I had to eliminate from the face of the earth, I'd get rid of that. Hardcore wrestling or women's wrestling, I'd get rid of women's wrestling. I know it sounds sexist, but hardcore wrestling has a much more believability factor in it, and wrestling is supposed to be suspension of disbelief. When two people are in the ring, you're supposed to really believe that they're fighting each other. You're supposed to believe they really dislike each other. Hardcore wrestling looks a lot more real. Women's wrestling, I know it's a messed up question. I'm only answering because Brian posed it, but any gender wrestling, wrestling is the most believable. I always liked hardcore wrestling. I've taken part in it. It's not my ideal form of wrestling, but I don't know. I would prefer that, to be honest with you. Street Fighter video series or Mortal Kombat, I would get rid of Street Fighter. I don't know, there's something about Mortal Kombat that I always liked, maybe because I was a kid growing up during that era. Hip-hop or rock and roll or blues. Hip-hop I would not get rid of because I used to love hip house more than anything, which was a combination of the two. Rock and roll, I have a little soft spot for a lot of vintage rock and roll and even some heavy metal. I've always said Pink Floyd is one of my favorite groups of all time. U2, Led Zeppelin, Van Halen, Guns N' Roses to a certain extent. I actually used to listen to a decent amount of rock and roll. Grunge, I used to enjoy a little bit. So I probably would go with blues. Blues is probably the one that I have least gotten into over the years. And he also asked if Mish has ever watched season 2 of The Umbrella Academy. I will definitely save that question for the next show. So, that's not something that is time sensitive that will expire. So I am saving that right now. And that'll be the first question we ask on the next show. So with that said, I am going to get out of here. We went 2 hours and 45 minutes, a lot longer than I think we all expected, but got a great show as always. I want to remind everyone out there that, yes, we don't do a breakfast soup every single week, but we do it every other week, and these shows are always 2.5 to 3.5 hours long. Sometimes we've done 4 and 5 hour episodes sometimes. So when you add up the month, it's always 5 to 6 hours worth of content. And, as I've said before, when we first started Patreon, the idea was Kev Castle, DT and Mish. Kev Castle, DT and Mish. We rotate every other week. Kev Castle is the one who came up to us and said, look, I'd like to do a show with my friend. Can I, instead of doing 2 longer shows, can I do 4 shorter shows? And we were like, sure, that's fine. But as long as you always get into patrons first. These are Patreon shows. Your content first, then we could talk about whatever we want, or we can start off with a topic and get into other things. Talking about having sex with designing women was not one of the questions, but you see how it could lead to other things. One thing we don't want to get into the habit of is talking about whatever we want to talk about for 2 hours and then rush through everyone's questions. Technically, it took us 2 hours and 45 minutes to get into everybody, but we spread it across the show. But he's the one that wanted to divide his time into 4 shorter shows instead of 2. So that's why you get this, but we always make sure we get into everything. Nothing is out of bounds. And in the process, Cassette Classics, I promise you, when I do blah, 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 a week from this week, next weekend, I will be more than happy to talk about the 93 Mets. Was that Dallas Green? Was Dallas Green the manager of the 93 Mets, or was it Torborg? I think it was Dallas Green. So I will definitely talk about the 93 Mets next week, because I'm immediately getting flashbacks. Right around Anthony Young time. My God, Todd Hundley. We'll talk about that next week. That's more regional, but yeah, we'll get that on the horizon. And it's a shame what happened with baseball this year, because I really was interested in doing a baseball podcast, but I'm just not feeling the season, not feeling it at all. And, you hear about the Cardinals. Look at how many games they got to make up in such a short amount of time. This season is fucked up. More than people imagine. There's some players that are doing great. Don't get me wrong. And I'm gonna feel bad whoever wins the World Series this year if it happens, because there's always going to be that gigantic asterisk behind it. But they're trying to make it work. NBA is doing great. Some sports can do a lot better compared to others, but the NFL concerns me the most. The NFL concerns me the most because, again, I go back to my rants about blue check marks. They think they're bigger and better than all of us. They don't want to make the same sacrifices. Many of them are prima donnas, and as a result, you see what's going on with some of these leagues. I will say this before I go: I absolutely love to see the Astros fall on their faces this year with all the controversy that went on. So yeah. And yeah, the NBA is losing the ratings war to Tucker. That's because we're in a presidential season. NBA will be just fine. So anyway, everybody, I'm going to get out of here. So I thank you for all tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed the show. Definitely send your feedback. Always watching it. I'm always on Patreon. Believe it or not, I respond to messages and interact privately more on Patreon than I do on Twitter. That's no joke. So definitely send your feedback. It is much appreciated. And Larry, make sure you PM me your shipping address so I could get your Chromebook out. Enjoy it. And everybody, much love as always. Definitely looking forward to our next show, which will be in 2 weeks. Next week will be blah, blah, blah. Everyone, take care, be well. And next Saturday, game night, join us. I know it started out a little slow yesterday, but I think next week, especially since some people were unable to come, and I know Mish, he had a lot of stuff going on last night, show-wise, which I know about, which is why I didn't know last night, but now I know. Next week is going to be a hell of a lot of fun, and by next week, I'll have that recording issue resolved so we can document all the crazy. Last night's Push the Button, some of the funniest gameplay that we've had so far. Just, oh man, seeing Krauser when the alien thing popped up, I'm like, this motherfucker lied to us during the whole entire game. He was an alien all along. If you never played the game, you won't understand it. But you don't even have to talk. You could just sit back and just watch everybody else play, and you will laugh because you'll hear everybody yapping. We get into convo about other things. I'll tell you, it's a fun deal, and we went last night about 4 hours. So take care, everybody. Much love. I'll talk to you soon. Ciao.